We might get started. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to acknowledge the land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people, and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region, and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So, where's David Hughes? Oh, he's an apology tonight. Have you got that down? Thank you. So we've got everybody here. Any motions to grant leave of absence, councillors? No? Oh, have you?
Yes. I would like to have leave of absence from the 7th of September until the 20th, please.
7th of 9 and to the 20th?
Yes, please.
Okay. And you're moving that, and you're seconding that, Councillor Hennessy. So Brian has moved the motion and Helen has seconded the motion. So we've got the 7th of the 9th till the 20th of the 9th. 7th, 9th, 24. No, 20th. 2020. Sorry, Nikita. 7th of the 9th to the 20th of the 9th inclusive. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We don't have any leave of absence currently. There's no non-attendance. David's an apology. Public open forum, and I received one. Adrian Shackley, Gawler Show public consultation. Thank you. There you go.
Excellent. I'm the only one. Thank you, Mayor and councillors, everybody else. I just want to say a few things about some meetings, but also the Gawler Show. That was fantastic. Most years it's fantastic, and it really is sort of showcases Gawler as part of the sort of our region. So lots of people come up from Elizabeth and Salisbury and Playford. Lots of people come from Lower North, and it's a great event. I don't think I saw a cross face there at the time I was there. Everyone was having a good time. But the amazing thing is as well that think of the media coverage of things like that. Very limited apart from the bunyip. If you have a shouting match somewhere or someone gets kicked in the head somewhere, that's top news. 30,000 people turn up for the Gawler Show. It's just life, I suppose. Anyway, I just thought it was great. And it's an important event for council and our community to support. Now, I went to the Boundaries meeting at Hewitt. It was an interesting experience. There was about 80 people there, I just thought, this is the first time this process has happened under the new legislation, and I just got a couple of comments. I thought the BDO people who ran it were sort of a bit, not exactly hung out to dry, but they really needed a bit of help. There was no facilitator there. So, basically they lost control of the meeting. Instead of breaking up into smaller groups and things, which they were planning, they ended up not doing that because people just kept jumping up and interrupting. So they gave it away. Well, you need a facilitator to do that. They're not in a position to, they don't want to upset people, so it's not their job. And equally, I think the people who were there had a pretty, most people have got a pretty poor understanding of local government, but there was pretty low level of information about things, and I reckon the session would have been better if there was maybe 5 minutes each for, Gawler Council and Light Council or some people to stand up and say, look, this is what we think the issues are. Because the BDO people were just trying to explain the process and, how you get involved and make submissions and putting up maps and things. But, people were quite frustrated because they were saying, well, what's it all about, really? Why is it happening? Who's going to benefit out of it, etc. So I just thought that you know, as a bit of a learning experience, it wasn't a very helpful meeting. You know, about 20 people had their say loudly, and the rest of the people, apart from clapping occasionally, didn't really have any input at all in the formal part of the meeting. You know, they could make comments and do their surveys, obviously, but you know, not impressed really. And so we've got a lot of consultation going on at the moment, community plan, growth framework, etc. I thought with the community plan, it was a bit difficult on the web, because what was up there was the current community plan, which has got all the introduction and content, and then the survey was only about the edited content of sort of policies that are proposed now. And I guess if you thought about it, you'd work out what was going on, but it wasn't obvious. Like now, the documents before council tonight, it's got all that sort of background information about, you know, how the council operates and all that sort of thing. And that's pretty important, because when you read the comments that people have put in, you know, people have very low information about what council actually doesn't control, for starters. So, you know, you've got all these comments about, you know, the council should get on and change the speed limit on Schomburg Boulevard, or, you know, fix up the empty shops in the main street. You know, these sort of issues that are people obviously concerned about, but I mean, they don't have a good picture of what council actually can do about it. So, you know, I think first of all, the background information that's now before this meeting could have been perhaps before that, as part of that package, saying, well, here's the updated information that we're putting forward as the introduction to the plan, but also just some stuff about what council does and doesn't control is pretty basic for people. I mean, we really do struggle getting that stuff right. And I mean, people complain about, you know, people don't vote in local government elections or don't pay enough attention. Well, one of the reasons is pretty straightforward. I mean, when you look at the electoral roll each 4 years, for Gawler, about 45% of the people who are on the current roll were not on the roll 4 years ago. And, you know, so in 4 years' time, you know, somewhere around 30 or 40% at least of the people who were on the roll this time won't be on next time. So, you know, less than half the people by a long way are in Gawler for 8 years. And, you know, getting on with your life, you don't easily get a picture of what's going on. So, you know, this sort of really basic stuff about, you know, what councils do, what they can't do, and, you know, how you find out information. It's really important. And I know we've got social media and stuff like that, you know. Yeah. Council does some work, but it seems that it doesn't hit the mark sometimes in terms of where it's targeted, or, I don't know, how you find people. I mean, people don't read papers so much now, but I mean, certainly the Bunyip's a fantastic asset, but, you know, other web pages, etc.
Your 5 minutes is up,
I've had my
Adrian.
time, thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Any other people that want to speak in public open forum? No? Okay, deputations, attendance record, we've done that. Public open forum, done that. Deputations, Prue Blackwell, Gawler DV Network. Is Prue here? Are you going to speak? Oh, right. So you're going to speak, Kim? Okay, thank you.
Thanks so much. We were just thinking 4 years ago we began this journey of coming together as the DV Network and with the full support of the Zonta Club of Gawler, how we could have a significant space, a place of reflection for all of the community. And today, on behalf of the Zonta Club of Gawler and the Gawler Domestic Violence Network, we would like to present Town of Gawler with this beautiful print of the mural to say thank you for your support financially and just continually over these last 4 years. We couldn't have done this without you. It is a beautiful place now to reflect, and we think of Sandra, our artist who's here tonight, such a gifted artist. We just also wanted to thank Wendy, who was instrumental, I think, with the engineering and looking after the park, and the ground staff have been always very, very helpful. we're very pleased that we're able to now be a site for Spirit of Women, and that's a wonderful thing that's going to go ahead, and we really do thank you for that too, and the input that the council's going to have with that. So if I can ask, I don't know who would like to come and take a presentation, take this beautiful mural. We hope that you will display it somewhere in a lovely place within, hopefully maybe in the chambers, I don't know. Are we lucky enough to do that? And say thank you. If there's any other councillors who would like to come up, we would really appreciate that, or staff. And if it's okay, if I could take a quick photo, is that all right? I think Narelle's going to do that. So thank you again so much. Please know that there are many members of the community and quite a few women who do actually visit the park and spend some time in reflection. Some are victims, some are survivors, some are families who've had their family members affected by domestic violence and gender-based violence. So please know it is a significant space for our community to come together and just share together when we do have specific events at the memorial, but also too privately for people to come and just spend some time. We've had so much feedback from really around Australia. Zonta, I'll be very quick, Zonta's just been up to their World Conference in Brisbane, and we've been able to take some of this of the prints and some postcards, and we're very fortunate that the Tourist Information Centre now in Gawler is going to be holding some of our information and our stocks, what am I saying? Merchandise, that's the word I wanted. Because this will, again, be able to raise funds for our network and towards supporting, families and our events that we want to hold to continue to raise awareness around the scourge of domestic violence. So thank you so much. We raise our hands to you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much. Okay, so that's the deputations. Declarations of interest. Yes? Oh, just turn it on again. Turn it on again. There you go.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Sorry about that. So I'm just declaring a general conflict of interest for item 11.1, which is the Gawler Business Development Group quarterly report, just because I am the council representative on that one, and I'll give the detail when we get to that item.
Thank you. Ethan?
Thanks, Mayor. I'll declare a material conflict for item 11.1.
Oh, yeah. Material. It's a charter. Yeah, conflict. Okay, thank you. Any other declarations of interest, councillors? No? Okay. So, we've had a request to bring 10.5 and 11.1, and I'm happy to put them both in one motion, 10.5 and 11.1. Yeah.
Happy to move a motion to bring those two forward, given just as an explanation, given that we have people here to present and answer questions. Should
yes.
Need them to.
Okay, so do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, I saw his hand first. So we've got a mover and a seconder. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we will do 10.5 first and 11.1 second. Okay. What's going on? confirmation of minutes. Okay, declarations, adjourned items nil, petitions nil, confirmation of minutes. Ordinary council meeting 23rd of July 2024. Who'd like to move that motion, Deputy Mayor? Who'd like to second it? Councillor Lorna, thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Special council meeting 30th of July 2024. Who'd like to move the motion? Deputy Mayor and Councillor Vallelonga, thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Special council meeting 14th of August 2024. Who'd like to move? Councillor White. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, thank you. All those in favour? Carried unanimously, thank you. Business arising from minutes, nil. Okay. So now we go to 10.5. 10.5. Is there anyone speaking on behalf of, let's have a look. Okay, you come up, just turn that on. There you go.
Hello, good evening everyone, and thank you for accommodating me. My name is Norfaye McCaskill. I am from Filipinos iConnect South Australia Incorporated. Our banner is actually giving awareness about domestic violence in the CALD community, at the same time information about mental health issues, because it's in our communities, it's like a taboo that we don't actually acknowledge that it's happening within. So our group has started 2018 informally as a Zumba group, but has been registered in 2022 as an incorporated body. We mainly cater before for Filipinos, but at the moment in our main base in Queenstown, we are serving people from India, South America, Mexico, Colombia, Vietnam, and Indonesia. So because I moved here in the north and I've seen the cases has risen in our community. We have 6 active cases of DV at the moment. So I thought we will expand our services here in the north, and we are very grateful that the community center has accommodated us to do that. And at the same time, we are also starting an extension of the Adelaide Filipino Ethnic School for our children to promote our culture, language, and at the same time for them to connect in the community.
Thank you. Any questions for North McCaskill? Thank you. Any?
Good question. Just noticing from the report, I gathered that did the program start halfway through the year or partway through the year this year? And is it something that would run all year round in the future?
Yeah, we will be running it like the whole year and in the future as well. And it depends if we will get a funding, then we'll be able to at least maybe lift up how much we can afford for the rent. So.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, North.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So we've got an officer's recommendation that council approves the request from Filipinos iConnect South Australia Inc. for a 90% concession on facility hire fees related to their use of the Gawler Sport and Community Centre. You want to move that way, Councillor Solomon?
Thank you, Mayor. Happy to move that way. From reading the report here, I think it looks like a fantastic program. It's one of those things where, as well, I tend to talk a lot about local government's role as an enabler of good community initiatives, and this is certainly something which, is a program which is being run by someone externally and is bringing a huge benefit to our community. all we have to do for that is to give a small concession. Obviously, as things change into the future around funding, there will be other options available, and that's something which we'll need to explore about the use of that space for a longer period. But with this one-off thing, I think it would be a pity to see the program not continue for those final weeks of the term, because it is obviously a program of a huge benefit, and of course we have a growing community here in Gawler, which it caters to well. So I think that it's a good program, and as a local government, as an enabler of good community initiatives, this is something that we should be getting behind.
Paul Kosh was seconding it. You wanted to second it?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to second this. I reckon it's a great program. Many years ago, I was involved with people who struggled with language, and it empowered people when they improved their literacy. It actually improved their lives. So I'm always supportive of any program that empowers people, especially women. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this motion. It's good that our policy is all set up now so that we can, get through this smoothly. For unrelated reasons, I was looking through the census data for the town of Gawler recently and noticed that people from the Philippines are in our top 5 countries of birth here in the town of Gawler. There's a significant community here in the town. So just one more reason why this is a valuable resource for our area.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks?
Just quickly, as Deputy Mayor pointed out, the fact that we're able to quote our policy and show that these, we're seeing a policy in action, which I think is a really good thing. And also just the fact that we can have these potential great outcomes for a portion of our community that Deputy Mayor pointed out in a time that the room and the facility is actually not used for any other use as well, I think is an important message to be sending. So, yeah, look, I'm happy to support this. Seeing public infrastructure used this way, I think, is why we sort of got into local government.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Solomon, are you happy for me to put the motion? I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we go to 11.1, Gawler Business Development Group Quarterly Report. Now you've got a general conflict and you've got a material conflict.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll declare a general conflict of interest, given that I am the council's representative on that board and a member of that board. I believe that given that position, I have some perspective and insight to bring. So I'll deal with that by remaining in the chamber and participating in both the discussion and voting.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'll declare a material conflict here because I've provided paid services to the Gawler Business Development Group, so I'll leave the chamber.
Thank you. Okay, right. Kevin or Karen, which one of you want to speak? There you go.
Yes, good day everyone. I'm obviously Kevin Fisher, Chair of the Business Gawler. And yeah, if you basically have the report in front of you. Do you have any questions from the floor, basically?
So, any questions from the floor? Councillor Kosh?
I mean, it's a simple question, I suppose. I've been trying to hunt down the actual cost of the Christmas parade. I haven't been able to do that. And I notice here that you've got in your income, events income, 4-11771 community Christmas parade sponsorship, 14,554. So I just wanted to know, was the Business Development Group the sponsors of the auspices of that, and what was the cost of running it?
Just turn your mic off, Paul. Thank you. There you go. There you go.
Yes, we were
There you go.
Okay. Yeah, we were the conduit for they're not an incorporated body and they can't deal with the funds, so all the funds come through our account. We are showing that currently there is an excess of funds there, but that is not our funds, if that makes sense. That is theirs. I don't know if we're expecting any more major bills, are we?
Not from last year, but there are all the new ones.
Yeah, the new bills are coming in. So they obviously build up a little bit of a nest egg there to carry them forward. So I'm not sure where the event will go, whether it will continue to stay within us. But in answer to your question, we also sponsor the event. We provide the public liability insurance for that event, which is a burgeoning cost. We still can't get an accurate estimate on what that's likely to cost us. But if I was to say last year, I think it was 6, 4, okay, saving money just standing here. Yeah, $4,000 was the insurance cost, but I believe it's going to be more than that this year. But they won't tell us till 6 weeks before the event.
Yeah.
Just so I've got to clear my mind, what was the actual cost of delivering the parade? Because I know council gave $10,000 and that was for the traffic management. So what was the total cost? Do you know? Because there was a whole lot of other sponsors.
You may not be able to answer that, Kevin.
I don't think I can answer that in its entirety because that would be an in-kind support. I don't think the council gave us $10,000 through our funds, did they? They didn't give us. You didn't give us $10,000.
No, we gave.
So we had $14,000 worth of income. We had some outgoings, which would have been not necessarily shown against those figures, I don't think, because the insurance costs we incur are part of our business Gawler. We get a total package, and that package will change and be altered according to that. And I don't think we applied it, in other words, on the budget lines that appear in our books. That would be correct?
It went under insurance, it went under community support.
So we did allocate a portion of it?
To community support. I might go to David Barrett because he's got his head around the numbers.
So through the chair, I can give you what money was provided for the parade. I don't know the full cost exercise because council didn't actually manage that. Council provided approximately $11,000 in cash towards the parade, and that was for traffic management and marketing. The Villawood Gawler provided $14,000 in sponsorship. Gawler Business Development Group provided $4,000 for the insurance. Gawler Central provided $2,500 for the entertainment after the event. So if you subtract all of that, leave the carry forward from the Gawler Business Development Group, which is still in funds, you should get the balance of what the event cost.
31. 31. Was it 31? 31. Yeah, 31. Yeah. Sorry. David.
Sorry, through the chair. The income was 31. There's a carry forward of around 14, I believe. So 14 off 31, 17,000 for the event.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, David Barrett. Okay. Are you happy with that? Fantastic. Kevin, do you want to say any more words? Oh, there you go. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I always like these reports because it gives the opportunity for me to turn around and try to get a plug-in on what's going on in local business. As Karen would know, I ask the same question every quarterly report, but, you know, I do take that opportunity to try to find out what you're hearing on the ground. And while we're on it, apologies that our report still says Gawler Business Development Group quarterly report. We will hopefully update the branding.
We will change that.
To align with your new branding, and just I guess a little bit of insight to how you're finding that. You know, it's a bit of a change. Is it, just doing the things that you wanted to do? So, two-part question there.
Okay.
I think we would have liked to have a grand unveiling of the business Gawler, but some of our events which came online the branding had already been done. Our trading name, so we will be Business Gawler trading as, that will still remain, not forgetting that the council agreement sits under that name. And then we currently have a logo competition that's running to try and get some, so that we can have an unveiling, and we're hoping that will be later in the year at the next event. I think we'll have it unveiled by the time we do the pageant. Sorry, not pageant, I keep calling it pageant, the parade. Yeah. The business awards will probably be, which are planned for November.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments that you'd like
Did I
to
miss
make,
something?
Kevin?
Sorry, and then also, how are we finding businesses in the area? I mean, a prompting question would be some of my hospitality contacts are sort of telling us it's a bit harder out there, cost of living are affecting their business, some strategies they're implementing and the like. What else are you seeing, I guess?
There you go.
Hello? Yep. It's one of the things probably, I'm not sure they enjoy it, but I do. When I go into a business, I always ask them how things are going and then end up chatting for the next 10 or 15 minutes, finding out the problems of the world. But my hospitality contacts are very similar to yours, I think, and I think it would be fair to say it's very tight. They're not prepared to say it's a negative about it, other than there probably a little bit of nervousness I sense around that. Karen probably gets around to a few more businesses than what I do, so I may just look over my shoulder in a minute, but that is my take on it. Obviously, as I said before too, with the construction industry, which you're well aware of, that is still going very vibrantly at the moment, and will continue for a little while yet before it hits a wall, I think. But yes, all the other businesses which we rely on, I think, are feeling nervous about the state of play. Interest rates obviously impacting on, and there are all the government charges, including insurances, which I think I spoke to the Bunyip about, the insurance costs. And I've noticed that myself have been quite a dramatic increase, and we're not talking the order of 10%, we're talking over that for most of our businesses, as evidenced by even our own little interaction with the public liability cover for the board. You know, that's just all of these, not just services, electricity, it is everything else. So you have to pay the piper at some stage, although when I look at QBE's share price, you know, their profits that they make, they don't seem to go down. Anyway. I will defer, did you have a comment to make about business? Yep.
Retail is really struggling as well at the moment. In fact, I had two conversations today with people who have been in the town for a very long time, and they really are struggling quite a lot. Their supply chain, their supply is quite low at the moment as well, so they're not getting the product through that they need to turn over and get some more people through the door. So it's pretty hard out there for everybody. And I also know hospitality as well, the cost of wages to be open on a public holiday are now so ridiculously high that these businesses are struggling to know whether they can open their doors on a public holiday or not. I think there's a nod by a hospitality person right over there. And so everything is really, really tight. People are looking at ways that they can try to get every little drop out of, you know, the dollars that they've got, and trying to do add-on selling. So it's pretty tight. Probably the worst that we've seen for quite some time. Okay, thank you. Any other comments, Kevin?
Only just I'm not sure if you're aware, we've had a bit of an advertising campaign to try and get some new members. We're really focusing on this AGM to try and get some interest from the business community. And I look forward to having conversations with the new CEO about the direction, you know, going forward from there.
Okay,
But yes, I flagged that as one of the concerns that I've struggled with over the last, is the small number on the board at the moment, and probably a general lack of interest in the board. And I'm not sure if that's what they're tied up in their own businesses and they're not as focused on that. But yes, general comment about that.
Thank you. Any other questions for Kevin Fisher or Karen Braun? No? Thank you. Thank you very much, Kevin Fisher, President of, Chair of the Business Gawler. Thank you. Okay. So we have an information report, officer's recommendation, and I'm on page 44 of 69. That council receives the Gawler Business Development Group quarterly report for April to June and notes that the Gawler business, or Business Gawler, has met its quarterly reporting requirement under item 10.2 of its funding agreement. Who would like to move that way? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Councillor Vallelonga, seconded. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Right. Now we go back to 10.1, loan borrowings. Have you got the meeting procedures? Meeting procedures. Thank you. Thank you. Where is it? Where is it? Short term 20. 20. Interruptions. Where is it? It's not there. Where? It's 20, and there's no 20. There's no 20. Where?
Oh, I've got it on electronically if you want to.
Oh, 20. Here we go. Yeah. So if the presiding member considers that the conduct of a meeting would benefit from suspending the operation of all or some of the provisions of this division for a period of time in order to allow or facilitate informal discussions, the presiding member may, with the approval of at least 2/3 of the members present at the meeting, suspend the operation of this division. So I'm going to go out for 15 minutes. We will time that. And we need 2/3. 2/3. Do you want to put your hand up, Brian? We've got 2/3, so that's fine. So we can go into suspension of proceedings right now. So you want to start, Helen?
Yeah, thank you very much, Mayor, and thanks for the opportunity to give some explanation. It concerns this forthcoming decision report, the 10.1 loan borrowing. And as other elected members can see, I've had some concerns. I thought I'd take this opportunity to explain. When I opened this item to read through, I went back and had a look at the documents that we have to use to make such a decision. And for me, they are the existing long-term financial plan, which is the 2021, which was created 4 years ago, and the 2024 annual business plan, which we passed 2 months ago. We are in the process of creating a new long-term financial plan, but that is still in early discussions. It has not gone out for public consultation. Well, first of all, it hasn't come to the council for approval to go out for consultation. Then it hasn't gone out for consultation, and finally it hasn't come back to us for ratification. So my problem is that this report keeps referring to the things in the proposed long-term financial plan, and it can't do. We have to use the documents that has been out for community consultation and has come back and be ratified. So it's the old long-term financial plan and the current annual business plan. Now, I'll focus on the annual business plan. That has given us, it's gone to the community and they have ratified, agreed to, and we have ratified, that we can go to $28 million worth of debt. I cannot make a decision about going up to 40 because I can't base it on any information that our community has approved and that we are bound by. So if we want to change the recommendation to 28 million, we're within the legal scope of what I believe we are entitled to do. But I can't do otherwise than that. I look forward to, and it was my expectation after the third workshop, I agree that we have had 3 workshops on the long-term financial plan, the new one. It was my expectation that what was going to be presented tonight was what we saw on last Wednesday's information session, so that we could debate it and then go out, approve it to go out for community consultation. I look forward to that. I just think we've got ourselves out of order. We're trying to put the cart before the horse, and I don't think we legally can. So that's my explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, for suspending meeting procedures. I think this is an important conversation. We're talking about $15 million and, us being comfortable or aware or educated, I think is our role to go out to the collective and be armed with the ability to answer the obvious questions. Look, I think where we might be tripping ourselves over, and I say this with all due respect, is there is a difference between going into debt, which I acknowledge is talked about in our long-term financial plan, and it is identified with that $28 million. Absolutely. It talks about, hey, we are operating this way, and we are forecasting it to cost $28 million, and we have no other revenue source here to expend this money, and we've reached our debt ceiling. There is a difference, though, in having a facility that is raised up to $40 million over spending $50 million and putting us in debt. That's the difference here. Now for me, the $15 million upping of our facility is a part of the strategy that we've been discussing for around 18 months now. And it is one of those steps that is recommended to do in the journey of setting us up. I mean, it's crazy to think about it like this, but this is our move to trade our way out of it. Like, realistically, trade our way out of where we are and have the facility available to implement the strategies budget cycle by budget cycle. At some point in time, it reached 25 million. This is the next version of modern day of what we need to do business. That said, the importance of this elected member, of this elected body, and the next is making sure the scrutiny is there to, when we draw down on that borrowing capability, it is for worthy reasons. And elected members would acknowledge that we want to position this council and the next council to have that borrowing capability to invest in new capital projects, not merely just to operate. But to correct that direction, you actually need to invest in your backlog of your fundamental services that you haven't been able to deliver, that we haven't been able to deliver. This is what we've been talking about. That all said, my comfort levels might be different to some in the room, and I don't say my comfort levels are more important than others. I'm more than willing to help whoever I need to, and take this to the Audit and Risk as your member on the Audit and Risk, and rely on our independent members to provide any answers to any questions that need to be asked, so that we understand and we all ensure that you understand this strategy, because there is risk to this strategy, but there is a bigger risk running the business how it's been run previously the same way over and over and over again. We've all agreed that we need to change the direction. This is a part of the strategy of changing it, in my opinion. But, again, happy to help my colleagues any way I can to ensure when we go out, our message is clear
to our community.
No. Okay. I'm going to read out Section 4, Guiding Principles. Procedures should be fair and contribute to open, transparent and informed decision-making. Procedures should encourage appropriate community participation in the affairs of the council. So I've got A and B there. So I'm just going to read those two out. Procedures should reflect levels of formality appropriate to the nature and scope of responsibilities exercised at the meeting. Procedures should be sufficiently certain to give the community and decision makers confidence in the deliberations undertaken at the meeting. So I've read A, B, C, D, all of those guiding principles out. Thank you. Right. Okay. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, look, I mean, if, I don't know if anyone else had anything, but I would be interested in hearing from Sharon about some answers to questions around this and in terms of, because I think there is a bit of a confusion around the difference between this financial year, the things we're approving for this financial year, which are in the budget, and then this this debt limit increase, which, as I understand it, isn't for this financial year, but is for our long-term financial plan. But I think it would help to... Yeah, it's borrowing capability, yeah.
Okay, over to you, Sharon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just before I start, I just want to point of clarification in relation to the long-term financial plan. As part of the 24-25 budget and annual business plan, the council did actually adopt the financial forecasts that were actually included in the annual business plan. So they actually replaced the financial forecasts that were in the long-term financial plan document that's actually on the website, which I think that Councillor Hennessy is referring to. So each year, once we actually adopt the budget, the general principles about the assumptions, but we actually reforecast using those decisions. So I think that as a reference point to what the council has endorsed needs to be those financial forecasts rather than the financial forecasts included in the 21-22 long-term financial plan, which did indicate that we were actually needing to increase our debt capacity and that we would actually exceed our debt capacity. And again, while the report title was probably a wrong report title, it is actually increasing our debt capacity or our facilities that we have available to actually meet our funding needs from a short-term basis in meeting cash shortfalls. You know, our main source of revenue is rate revenue, which comes in on a quarterly basis. However, most of our expenses are either don't necessarily coincide with the inflow of the cash that we have. So we do have some short-term funding needs that we need to actually access that. But it's also given our current landscape to actually fund, obviously, the capital works program that the council has been adopted. Yes, again, you know, so in relation to this financial year, the debt limit of $25 million is going to be breached, and that information hasn't been, I suppose that messaging has been provided to the council through the budget process last year, and obviously the workshops that we've actually had in relation to the long-term financial plan. Again, I suppose the scenario is to sit there and say we can increase the facility limit to what we need this year, and then go back next year based on the financial forecast and the strategy that has been presented to council as the recommended strategy, which based on the discussions that we've had through the budget process and even last week's information session, the principle of that strategy seemed to have support of the chamber to take that approach of really addressing our infrastructure renewals and increasing our infrastructure renewals and our spend on infrastructure, while at the same time addressing our operating expenditure to reduce that operating expenditure as we go through, so we actually build that capacity to have the opportunity to actually fund those asset renewals through our normal rate collections, which at the moment we actually don't have that capacity to do for various reasons. So as I said, it's just because we're seeking that increase in the facility doesn't necessarily mean that we will actually be going out and borrowing the money. We will only borrow the money when we need it, and it will actually be based on the requirements to deliver the budget or to deliver any variations that are actually come through during the year which are unforeseen. Like, so for example, if we have a major failing of we have a massive sinkhole in one of our roads that's going to cost us, $2 or $3 million to repair, at this point in time, we don't have that capacity to actually fund that. And so it is that just providing a bit of flexibility to also, I suppose, meet those potential shocks while we actually go through this process of addressing and returning us into a position to, I suppose, generate that cash that we need and return back to operating surplus. And again, I suppose it also provides us the flexibility to potentially take advantage of opportunities if they do arise, in relation to that, if we have a funding opportunity that suits a project that we were planning on doing, 12 months or 18 months down the track, but the opportunity arises, but we may have to actually have that contribution there. So I think the issue, I think just reinforcing what Councillor Shanks said, it's not going out and asking and going out and saying, okay, I'm going to go borrow an extra $15 million. It's just basically increasing that debt ceiling that we currently have at from 25 million up to 40, because I think based on the current strategy that's been presented and, as I said, supported, while not being come back to the chamber for a decision, but there has been no feedback to date based on that the strategy or the approach that we're taking is not the direction that the council wants to take. And so based on that information, that's where the recommendation is that to actually increase that facility limit to the by another 15 million.
So we'll go to Councillor Koch.
Yeah, look, I'm quite uncomfortable with raising the borrowing capacity to. I'm looking at the table that we got, and 28, 29, that would go up to close to 45 million. That's what the debt level says. That's what it says, that little line says. It says for 25, 26, the debt will be 40 million. That's what it says. So it's actually putting in place that we will borrow that money. It's not a reserve, it's not something we may use, but actually says that that's what we'll do because it's forecasted. I'm very concerned that when I first got onto council, we were borrowing money for operations each year, and I think we're still potentially paying that off. I'm not sure, but that was a terrible position to be in. The audit committee said we need to turn this around, we need to get your debt level down, etc., etc. We did some pretty hard things, but actually got the debt level down, and we could actually do some other things. Yeah. That's really important. I think we need to talk to the Audit and Risk Committee. We had the chair here. I'm not sure why they didn't say anything, but I assume that they would have comments because it's completely at odds, I think, with what we were doing 12 years ago. So I'm very, very concerned that we would just all of a sudden go up to 40 million by next year.
So I'm going to cut
Yep.
I'm gonna cut the, we've gone for 20 minutes, so, we've gone for 20 minutes. We've gone for 20 minutes, no. Yeah, so, we'll go out of, I beg your pardon?
Sorry, with all due respect, Mayor, you're not going to get the conversation that we need to have on this big decision if we stop. Like there are responses that I think Paul wants here. There are responses that Helen I think wants. You've got a whole chamber that hasn't even spoken yet.
Yeah.
And this is $15 million. Can we please extend it and let's
Well,
have this
I'll go
conversation.
to 30 minutes. I'll go to 30 minutes.
I appreciate that, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, Isaac Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a question. I'm just wondering about, particularly around the covenants that might be put on us, and it's probably a question for Sharon, but just in relation to those covenants, if we have a one increase, does that give us more security than multiple increases, or what are we likely to see if we have multiple increases? Is there a chance that those sort of covenants change?
I don't think that the covenants will change. So I think that essentially the viewpoint of based on discussions that I've had with LGFA and the feedback that LGFA have actually provided at the session that we had last year, I think sometime, in relation to that the expectations would be that we actually once we commit to the plan and the strategy, or not so much the plan itself, because obviously things will change, the financial figures, but once we actually apply or set the strategy, the expectation is that we would probably commit to that strategy and stay pretty much within that path. Again, their expectation is no different from the Audit Committee's expectations, which is no different from my expectations, which is no different from the Executive's expectations and the Council's expectations, is that fundamentally we need to actually return to an operating surplus position, but we actually need to do that smart and we need to do that in a sustainable way, and we can't do that by cutting expenditure and reducing expenditure and not spending on essential assets just for the purpose of actually getting our debt level down. You know, because I think that that's actually a false sense of false economy of what we actually.
No, I'm not going to you. I'm going to Councillor Lorna. I'm going to Councillor Lorna now. Okay, Councillor Lorna. Councillor Lorna.
Okay, thanks for that. Look, obviously none of us really want to raise the ceiling to 15 mil. Taking out 45 mil, from what I see from this, regardless whether we borrow the money or not in that period of time that you're talking about, Councillor Kosh, is we're going to need that cash anyway. We've got renewals to go through. We need to keep trading. We need to run the business as we are. We've gone through a long time and got to this point where we are from probably not doing it right. So we've taken, a lot of this is going to come down to the council and us as a chamber actually working hard and keeping on track to make sure that we're getting our costs down and that we can actually maintain this. I can see why we go for the 15 mil up front. It's basically administration burden if we got to keep going back every time something comes up and we need to actually do some work, get things done. It is quite challenging. It'll be challenging for staff. We're better off hitting at the one point there, knowing where we're at, knowing what we got, knowing what money we're playing with, and actually have the facilities put in place so we can work with it. This doesn't really threaten me. I don't like it. I've seen it and operated in many businesses like this as well, where we've had to take the money in, we had to have that capital go in there, we had to have your overdrafts or whatever you want to call it, have pre-approval so we can continue working and delivering what we need to deliver. I don't see the real issues within that matter. I do understand that we have been speaking about it for 18 months ago. The LGFA came in and had a chat to us about how this is all going to operate, and if we go over our debt ceiling, what the caveats are. It wasn't big and scary as what everyone's trying to make it out to be. As long as we are doing the right thing and holding our heads high and supporting each other as a chamber, as a council, you know, we can make this work, get ourselves into an operating surplus and work on getting that debt down, not ending up with a ton of things that are going to be falling over and that we can't fix, ending up in the point where we have to actually start selling assets so we can keep operating. I think, and you know, Sharon, you've done a great job with putting this to do. It's a pretty hard thing to put to the council and to the community, and for us as elected members to say to the community, we're just going to raise it up to 15 mil, but we're going to raise it. It's basically a pre-approval sort of thing, so we'll use it as we need to use it, but we need to be working strong as a team together to use it wisely. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Ethan White?
Thanks, Matt. Just a couple of points of clarification I'm seeking. So the forecast that would have gone through the budget this year and then the forecast that will be in the long-term financial plan and in the 25-26 budget, they'll all go through a community consultation and through the Audit and Risk Committee, I'm presuming. And just another point is, looking at the forecast, as Councillor Koch pointed out, it does look like we're hitting, you know, forecasting a debt of 45 mil in 2028-29. I guess I'm just wondering why not raise it to 45 now, or is it, what's the reasoning behind that? So those 2 points.
Right, so you're coming through me? Right. Yeah, okay.
So to answer your first question, so just as I indicated, so the process from here in relation to the long-term financial plan, so the plan is to present the long-term financial plan along with the asset management plans to the council on the 23rd of September for the purposes of going out to consultation. In relation to that, from an audit committee perspective, we had discussions about this on their meeting held in July, and we foreshadowed with them that due to the timing of their meeting and that they probably wouldn't have an opportunity to see the long-term financial plan before it actually went out to consultation, and they felt comfortable with that because they were involved, I suppose, in discussions in relation to this output from their SCOSA review. They've had discussions in relation to, I suppose, the general approach of the strategy that's being proposed as part of the long-term financial plan, and Natalie was actually present at the information session that was presented. So as the committee members were okay with that approach and that they were comfortable that they wouldn't see the long-term financial plan until it came back from consultation, and then they would actually endorse it, obviously, at their November meeting prior to it coming back and making their recommendations coming back to council at the end of November. Obviously, with regard to notwithstanding the financial forecasts in the long-term financial plan, obviously each year when we do the budget, council also and the community also have another point of consultation and having that discussion based on what's actually presented in that as well, and from that perspective. So there's obviously lots of opportunities for the community to be involved, and obviously with the council through the budget process and the annual budget process and the remaining process with regard to the long-term financial plan. And now I've forgotten the second question. Oh, yeah, 45. The reason why I didn't go up to 45 now was I thought that 40, while that's what, based on the assumptions that are actually present at this point in time, those assumptions are sort of, I can't predict what's actually happening from an economy perspective. You know, so realistically, I'm using in the current plan, I'm probably using what I hope to be probably higher in inflation figures, because I suppose I'm not, you know, like I'm not an economist, and if I could predict what the cost increases or what the would actually be going forward 3 or 4 years, I probably wouldn't be here. So from that perspective, so I think it's more that the fact of realistically, let's do what we think that we actually need and have that capacity for the next couple of years as we actually start the hard work, because realistically the hard work is actually happening in the next couple of years of actually trying to actually I suppose reduce that cost base or reduce that rate of the increase of the cost base over the next couple of years, because that is actually critical to actually do that, to actually make sure that we can actually, you know, not have to borrow further because we haven't actually done what we need to do to actually reduce the operating costs and getting that back into an operating surplus position. So I suppose I'm being optimistic that we'll do it and we won't need it. So don't necessarily go for that limit. You know, realistically, I'm very risk averse with regard to borrowing. So like, I don't like borrowing money. I don't have any, and all that sort of stuff. So if we don't need to borrow, we won't be borrowing. But it is just that capacity, having that capacity and those facilities available should we need it is I suppose that's the risk mitigation strategy here, is having those facilities should something happen that we can't that we actually need it, that we didn't foresee as well. But also I think that I don't want the council to make decisions in cutting the expenditure, which I think is essential to actually get to the right position of where we actually need to do as well, be in that position.
Okay. All right. It's, what, 4 minutes? 4 minutes. You've got 4 minutes. 4 minutes.
I was sort of hoping the meeting procedures would be able to tease out some of the concerns, so I'd be able to act on your behalf, take it to the audit committee and the like. But at this point in time, I think we're rushing through and we're somewhat in meeting procedures to a degree, in my opinion. And I'm still struggling to ascertain what the concerns are so I can help alleviate them. Because raising the borrowing facility is not equivalent to borrowing the money. And each budget cycle, we have to approve the spending each 12 months that allows us to scrutinise, that goes through the audit and risk. So I'm more than happy, as I offered at the start of this, to assist any way I possibly can, but the strategy of 12 years ago of cutting spending to save money is what we're dealing with right now. So I don't want to repeat that history, obviously. And that's what we've all agreed to in our information briefings, in our strategy, in trying to figure out how we're going to trade our way out of where we're at. So this facility is one of those steps, but it does not equate us spending $40 million. It can't. So, yeah, look, I'd love to keep this conversation going, but unfortunately I'm not getting what I need to get to be able to support or defer to then help. So I just want to make that clear, that unless we can tease out this conversation, I can't help anything here. I'm sort of where I am, okay, but I'm snookered.
Right. Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I think, from what I can tell, look, this motion makes sense to me, but for the most part, I think, not all of it, as I understand, is going to be permanent debt, more just situations where, the rent is due on the 1st of the month, but you don't get paid until the 10th sort of situation, which is where the rates come in quarterly, but we need to pay potentially faster than quarterly, those sort of situations. But also just this is the financial discipline that we're talking about. I know there's the easy part of financial discipline, which is making cuts, because that's easy to explain to the public. You look like you're busy, But the hard part is saying, well, we can't tread water, we can't continue being at the edge of debt and not renewing our assets. We actually have to invest to renew our assets, which means we have to sell to the community some tough newspaper headlines, you know, of, the debt limit's increasing. But to me, that's part of the financial discipline that we've been talking about.
Thank you. No, we've hit the 30-minute mark. 40 seconds. Yeah, so we've got 40 seconds. So I'll go back into meeting procedure. Yeah.
Just, Mayor, I'm just wondering, I have to ask with respect, what is the rush? Like, meeting procedures can be suspended at the discretion of the chairperson. I feel like we can stay out of meeting procedures and discuss this more. That's the appetite I'm sensing. I just need to ask what the rush is. The only person in this room that should be rushing is Councillor Vallelonga, because he needs to urgently leave the meetings early from a number of times. But other than that, I don't see the rush. With respect, I would like to request that we keep the meeting informal. No. But why? What's your justification, Mayor?
No.
What is your justification?
Well, we've had 30 minutes of discussion.
We can sit here all night if we want to, though, Mayor.
Well, no, we can't. We've got other agenda items to deal with, and my role is to keep the meeting going.
And make good decisions.
Yeah.
And facilitate good decision making, okay? And I believe that this council will benefit from more discussion.
With all due respect, I'm the chair of the meeting, and I have 30 minutes.
Okay.
30 minutes.
Well, Mayor, as the chair, I respect you. I just was seeking clarification for our community. Why?
Thank you.
Why?
Thank you. So we'll go back into meeting procedure. We'll go back into meeting procedure now. Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thank you for the discussion. I'm afraid it still hasn't altered my point of view. I actually feel that we are doing this the wrong way round. I believe that we need to commit to what we have agreed with our community. I've been contacted by a number of people who watched our information session last Tuesday night, and we spoke specifically there about having very clear messaging. I agree we've come a long way as a united front about how we deal with our debt, and I want to try and maintain that cohesiveness. I just think that we're not doing the clear marketing, we're not explaining it, and I think this is too early, and it is going to, and I know it's going to confuse and upset our community, and I just wished we'd tackled it in a slightly different order, and I look forward to the long-term financial plan coming back at the end of September, so we can debate some of because we haven't got agreement on all the factors. So I'm going to offer this alternative motion that I proposed. I don't know whether I need to do that before this officer's recommendation or afterwards.
You can put a motion without notice.
Okay, motion without notice then. Yeah. As was sent round, I'm going to ask that we defer this item until a future council meeting. I want to hear specifically from the audit and risk. As you said, we had an audit and risk person at the meeting last Tuesday. They didn't get a chance to answer. I need, as part of my comfort zone, if you call it that, so that I can answer the community, and I need to be able to say the Audit and Risk Committee has given us assurance that this is within what they consider to be a worthwhile thing. We've got to say, as elected members, it is my role to sell it to the community. I know and I agree with the baseline strategy, certainly, but I don't think we've got the messaging right, to be quite honest, and I think we're going too early.
So do I have a seconder for that? Do you want to second it? Yep, thank you.
Look, I mean, I've talked about my thoughts on the item already, but I think at this point it's clear that we're not ready as a group to make a decision that everyone feels like they're fully across it. And so if we're going to defer it and then that comes back with a more clear decision, then you know, that's an option we can take.
Councillor Samble, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Councillor Hennessy, your passion is fantastic. This meeting tonight is for the town of Gawler. We have the Reverend Shackley back there. The only public member here, if the community knows about this meeting, this year I cannot believe the public meetings that we've had, and there's been sweet bugger all people there. Now, our community, I like your passion about the community, I've got it too, but we have a fantastic team in our finance department, and I think most people will say we're being told exactly the facts down the line. Individuals can have their individuality about what they borrow or whatever. Listen to Councillor Lorna there before. The council is a business, and the people of the business, we are the leaders that actually make the decision, but the community, you can see them all sitting back there now, have their right to be able to talk to us. This is only going to stall time, and I believe we've had plenty of information to go forward with what's been put to us here tonight.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks?
Mayor, can we... Oh, sorry, I can see the motion now. Are we just able to...
Can we move it up?
Yeah, thanks for that. Sorry, I couldn't see it before.
Move it up.
That's my fault.
Moved Councillor Hennessy. Yep.
Yeah, and then seconded Deputy Mayor, I believe.
Yep.
Look, I'm in two minds on this. I was hoping that the before conversation would arm me, your audit and risk member, something that I can go back to the committee and ask on your behalf. Unfortunately, I couldn't get that. I couldn't get that out of that conversation. For one reason or another, I couldn't get there. And messaging to the community, I'm all for. I feel like we need to be armed with what we need to be able to go out there to answer these questions. But I can't go out there and ask the Audit and Risk Committee if there's a difference between raising your cash advance facility and spending money. The answer is going to be yes, there's a difference. And I don't say that lightly. We've been talking about this strategy. We've been talking about what we're trying to do with savings. Our Audit and Risk have given us the goal to save $750,000, which our Executive Manager of Finance is openly admitting, I don't know how we're going to do it, but by God, we're going to try to do it. And all that reporting, all that financial strategizing is being communicated. The message has been on point. This is a part of that strategy, part of that step. This does not spend $40 million. You know this as elected members. We use budget cycles to approve spending, and we use those budget cycles to tie into our long-term financial plan. This business, this organisation is picking up, hey, your long-term financial plan was a little bit weak before because it didn't actually link in to your strategic outcomes that you are preaching you want to achieve, that your community are telling you you want to achieve. And in the meantime, we've also picked up on the backlog of fundamental services you cut out of your budget historically that you now need to catch up on. That's not an opinion anymore. That's now put in data back to this chamber. If we want to help this organisation get back to where it needs to be to deliver the things we all agree we need to deliver, one way or another on a higher level, this is a part of that strategy. That facility is one small step in that process that we have to go on, that we all agreed is the right idea in principle throughout these information sessions. So our message that we need to be clear on is there's a difference between good and bad debt, as every business owner understands, and our message is to make sure that we pass that understanding on. Begrudgingly, I don't think I can help with the deferral here, and I apologise to my colleague Helen Hennessy, because I think we were maybe 5 to 10 minutes off trying to tease out exactly what I can do to assist, but I didn't get there. So to delay a process, to tell our staff, no, we don't want you to do what we said we are actually comfortable with you doing in your strategy, to no net gain, to go to an audit and risk that also agree with this all in principle, seems like a waste of time here. And again, I say that with utmost respect, but it's where I'm at, frustratingly.
I'll be supporting this motion because I don't see what the rush is. We've got our budget in place that we've agreed to an increase in the debt, that's fine. We need to look at the look at the long-term financial plan, look at all the indicators, look at what's happening. We need to talk to the audit committee. They actually said they want us to be in surplus by the end of this term. When I look at the debt management little curve here, and that's what we've all got, our net financial liabilities by the end of our term will be 110%. We're nowhere near a balanced budget, which is what the Audit and Risk Committee said they would like us to do. They didn't say that blandly. They said they want us to do that. We need to be disciplined, etc., etc. And part of that is taking our time and thinking through the long-term financial plan, looking at our asset management plans, everything else, what we need to actually do, and then come to a decision down the track a little bit. I think tonight it's just a little bit too rushed. Yes, we've had all this discussion. I was actually a bit surprised after 2.5 hours, whatever it was, that the last slide we had the other night was this slide, and I actually made some comments about that because I was actually quite concerned that all of a sudden, here it is, it's going to be up to $40 million. That's a huge amount of money for our community. I sort of wonder whether we'll actually get out of debt if we just raise it too much. There are we should be looking at how we can be more efficient, how we can do things differently. I don't think we haven't done our service reviews, we haven't done anything. It's business as usual and borrow some more money, basically. So I'm quite happy that it's deferred and that we actually get all the information together and we talk to the audit committee and we actually bed in our long-term financial plan because we're going to be fine for this budget cycle because we've already agreed to that debt. This is just making sure we get all our ducks in line and we actually get a plan that we're all happy with and that we can take to the community and the community's happy with, because it's actually their money in the end. And putting the debt level way up to almost 45 million in 3 years' time, I just find that very scary. Thank you.
Just have a question first through you, Chair. If we do go back to the audit committee and delay, is there an impact that's going to have upon us?
Sorry, the report will be presented at the Audit and Risk Committee and it will detail going up by $15 million in council's loan borrowing capacity.
I realise that. Is there an impact on us at the moment if we approve it tonight or after that meeting?
Well, if we look at our risk management, Council has a conservative risk appetite for variations to approved operating and capital project budgets and is prepared to accept medium levels of risk. So I think that needs to be factored in. Yeah.
I appreciate that, but I'm probably more or less asking for Sharon to tell me if we don't agree with this and we defer it, what impact is that going to have?
Right.
I think so, please.
Through the Mayor. So in relation to deferring it, and to go back to the Audit Committee, I suppose there is one hard deadline, or there's probably a couple of hard deadlines that the Council need to be cognisant of. The long-term financial plan and asset management plans need to be adopted by the end of November. We do have to actually go out to consultation on the plans. The minimum time period is 3 weeks. The other matter that needs to be considered is that we are actually being subject to a SCOSA review this year, and the submission date for documentation for them to consider and to take into account in relation to their assessment of us from a past and a future perspective is the 30th of September. So ideally, and ultimately, it's acknowledged that we won't have a fully endorsed long-term financial plan and asset management plans by that 30th of September date. However, having a draft that's endorsed for community consultation will be a better option than basically not having one at all. So I think that they're two legislative dates that this deferral will actually impact on what our ability to meet that. Obviously, if with regard to the increasing borrowing, so yes, there was a council resolution to increase the borrowings by 3.6 million, so I can actually just go back to LGFA and increase the facility get an extra facility by $3.6 million, and so that can be so I can do that from that perspective. But again, I think it's probably a wider issue in relation to that, just rather than actually doing that the borrowings from a piecemeal basis. Hence the report as to increasing that facility based on the financial forecasts that have actually been coming through from a long-term financial plan. So they're the probably two. So so I can still go back and invoke the recommendation and get an extra facility of 3.6 and tide us over to the end of the financial year. But the other two factors are in relation to the timing and the way that we do that. The only way that we could meet that, especially the November deadline, is potentially having a special audit committee meeting, and then that will actually just a further consultate. But then that just, and then probably have to have a special council meeting to actually ensure that we can actually go to community consultation and have the sufficient timing for that community consultation as well, or we just miss the November deadline of the adoption of the plan.
Question?
Sorry, members, my frustration got the better of me before. My apologies. Question through you, Mayor, if I could. Logistically, just to talk to Mick's there and Sharon's, could we call a special audit meeting and get back the answers to next month's meeting, assuming that should the audit committee answer whatever questions we're trying to ask? Is that logistically possible? I'm just trying to map out a potential logistics here.
Through the Mayor, it's possible. However, I'm going on leave on Wednesday, so I wouldn't be party to any of those conversations. I'm back on the 30th of September, but I can write a report that can be presented to the Audit Committee in the next couple of days. Just presenting the information that I've basically presenting here, because from that perspective, but I wouldn't be able to partake in those conversations or answer any questions in relation to that. But if that's what the Chamber wanted, it possibly could happen from that perspective. Otherwise, it could, if it gets,
Depends on the availability of the independent members. Yeah.
It depends on the availability. It is pushing it. I think that realistically it is probably that question on whether, it's pushing. I think even having a special council meeting and then getting it back to the September meeting is probably logistically a bit too hard to do that.
You want to speak again, Councillor. Do you have leave? You've got leave.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Lorne, for your question. I think we've actually got clarity, something that we haven't had until this point. So now we know the deadlines. I still can only support going the borrowings by the 3.6 that we've already approved. I cannot go to the 15 million because I don't believe we've got the community's approval to start to move down this track. I think the timelines are very tight. I understand what they are. I still think we also need to build in sufficient time in the September council meeting, because I still think there's some things to sort out in terms of clear messaging, clear understanding about what's in that long-term financial plan. It's out in the public already and they are not clear, and I'm unable to explain what it is we're trying to do. I can't see when we intend to get back into an operating surplus. I've got no idea. We've stated very clearly we intend to, but what would it look like? Yes, we hit an enormous amount. By my reading of the graph, it was $46 million of debt in 3 years' time, and we won't even start to pay any of that off within 5 years. We are talking about a very long term. It's going to be painful, we've agreed on that, it's something we have to do, but we need to give ourselves and the community some sense of where we're going and how we will market and how we will manage it. Because these decisions need to come back into this chamber for our agreement. You know, this is now a time where we can't leave everything to the staff, great as they are, and, you know, with their expertise. We're the ones that take the ultimate responsibility for this debt and how we manage it. So I can support putting it up from 3.6, in which case I'm happy to withdraw my motion, but otherwise I can't do the 15, sorry.
Councillor Solomon.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, I hear what Councillor Hennessy's saying in regard to the way that we communicate this to our community. On the flip side, if I was a staff member of Town of Gawler, I would be very confused, because I think, not just talking about tonight, but other items, we seem to at times not be on the same page as staff and the executive team, in the sense that we keep speeding some things up and asking them to be done really quickly and slowing some things down. And we're obviously not on the same page. We've had an effort to try and get there tonight. That hasn't worked. There's some questions I would have liked to have asked Councillor Hennessy. I can't do that now. And there's some questions I would have liked to ask staff, which I can't do. And I'll leave that part, or that commentary, at that. So what I'm going to do now is just speak to the merit of the motion and the proposal that's before us, and talk about, to our community, who may very well be watching this, what this plan is about. So, of course, we've undertaken a lot of work around this. There was a session which was publicly streamed the other day around what our long-term financial plan might look like, and gave them a bit of a taste of that. There was some discussion around that. That was publicly broadcast. There are some things that our community is perhaps not aware of, some discussions which we've had, which they may find value in, and which sometimes we may trip ourselves up as an organisation because we know that we know them, but we take for granted that the community knows them, even though we may not have communicated that effectively yet. So I think that's a space we can improve in. In saying that, there's no real way other than me saying that to actually have a proper discussion about it. So people will just have to listen to me for 5 minutes, which I wouldn't have spoken for had I had the opportunity to ask some questions. But this piece of work is, this increasing the loan borrowings goes along with a lot of other stuff that we're doing. It goes along with the long-term financial planning that we're doing. It goes along with the asset management work we're doing, talking about rate stability, which is a fantastic thing for ratepayers if you know and can rely on your council not to just hike rates at a moment's notice. It's a great thing if you know, but we're looking at service levels. It goes into that growth planning, and people know that their council's planning for the future. It goes into that sustainable workforce growth that we've been talking about, because the phrase has been said multiple times that we borrowed to turn the lights on. And we need to give our community the reassurance that we have a plan to get out of that. To me, that's in the long-term financial plan. I would have liked to have asked about the way in which these things need to go one after the other and the order that they need to be done in, because, of course, I take Councillor Hennessy's point about having the long-term financial plan set before increasing the borrowing limit, but I also wonder whether we can actually go out to the community and say this is our long-term financial plan without actually having the capacity and ASCOSA and the LGFA all being on the same page with what our borrowing limit is and what the caveats might be, and et cetera, et cetera. But I don't understand that at the moment. I'm unable to. So with that, unfortunately, I'm just going to vote on the merit of the motion which is before us, which is about making sure that we have the capacity to borrow to get our way out of debt, and that we have a plan which says to our community, we're focused on our long-term financial planning now, we're focused on our asset renewal, we need to invest in our assets to make sure that we get back to a financially sustainable place, and we actually have a plan for growth as well. And at the end of that, you get reassurance about what your council is doing and what your rates are going to look like into the future. So that's the thing I'll be voting on. So unfortunately, I'll be voting against the deferral, but I'll be voting for the loan borrowings motion should it get to that stage.
Thank you. Sorry? Yep, leave to speak again. If you could put your hands up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, so just to, I guess, clarify, like I'm supporting this motion, not because I disagree with anything that, for example, Councillor Solomon said, but just because it seems like we're not all on the same page yet. And I think there's a chance that we could get on the same page, because I know this wouldn't have come as a surprise to the audit committee people who this is gone through, but I think potentially it would benefit from being able to hear from them directly about these questions, would maybe ease some concerns that people might have. So that's my reason for supporting the motion.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor. Look, I am in a little bit in two minds now. And first of all, I just want to say I have a great deal of respect for Councillor Hennessy, and I understand what you're trying to achieve here. I think at the moment I can't support the motion as it stands, because I'm not willing to put myself in the position to support going back to the Audit and Risk Committee and delaying this further at this point in time. And I'll go into the reasons why I believe that. Look, like I said earlier, I was hoping we could have a bit more of discussion here, and I believe that there would have been some kinks that were ironed out of a number of concerns that have been raised or implied by elected members, but unfortunately that wasn't able to happen. I am not willing to go into a position and ask some of the questions that I think are great questions that can be answered more informally to our Audit and Risk Committee, because they are a panel of experts, of independent members, and if we're going to ask them questions that we already know the answers to, we just need to find them in reports, or we need to have an informal discussion, or we need to talk to our staff. I don't think we should be dragging in our Audit and Risk Committee for a special meeting to do that, when I believe we already have those answers. We just need to get a better understanding of them. I also don't want to hold up, while I understand we should have those concerns, I think holding this up and delaying it further by what Sharon was saying, there's going to be additional meetings, there's going to be more red tape, there's going to be more work for staff over the coming weeks. When, we already have spent as a community tens of thousands of dollars on salary of our fantastic finance team to put this together, which is great, and we are obviously so grateful for their work, but that is a cost. And if we delay this now, like was said earlier, we sometimes want our stuff to be quick, and now we want them to be slow, and we're not quite sure. So at this stage, I can't support that for that reason. The other thing is, I still think there is some confusion in the air in regarding debt and deficit. And, again, I'm not an accountant, but there seems to be this theory that we're not going to be back in surplus because we've got so much debt. They're not the same thing. They're two different things. Again, things that could have been achieved if we had more of an informal conversation. The other thing is, we all want to get into a more financially sustainable place, but this solution, which has been in the works for 12, 18 months, that we've all been in discussion with, comes out on the table in little bits and little steps, and we just say no with no other solution. Well, why? Unless you can come up with a better solution, don't say no, say how can we make it better or suggest improvements, because I'm kind of sick and tired of the just no. Let's actually be problem solvers and work a way forward. So while I can understand exactly where you're coming from, Councillor Hennessy, I hope you can understand and the community can understand where I see at this point I can't support the motion as it stands. I'm all for more discussions more informally in the not too distant future, but as far as sending it back to the Audit and Risk Committee and delaying this even further, I believe there's enough information in the public realm that I'm going to not support this, but would be in favour of the increase to the debt ceiling at this stage.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? Councillor Hennessy, you can wrap up the debate. Oh, you're done? Okay. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hand. All those against? You haven't voted, Councillor Deputy Mayor? You voted for. Oh, you voted for. Okay, the motion is lost. Okay, so now we go back to the officer's recommendation. Do you want to move it that way?
Yeah, if I could, Mayor. Look, I think we've talked about the item, and I think we could have potentially had a bit better of a conversation. But regardless of that, the motion that sits on the table now is a part of that financial strategy, which again I can't stress enough is the strategy that we're talking about, trading our way out of it. I think the onus is on us. Audit and Risk members, Mayor, you're on the Audit and Risk as well, to hopefully help carry through those questions to the Audit and Risk. And you know, I pledged to ask them. Where I was breaking down there is I'm still not 100% sure what question I'm asking. Like, is it, hey, this report came up to us, would you guys approve this? Like, and if that's what it is, then I'm more than happy to run that to ground. But we don't need to approve the spending of $3.6 million for the expenditure to deliver on the budget. That's what the budget process did. And that is approving going into further debt by spending. The balance of the $15 million, once you take out the 3.6, needs to go through the budget process and approve that spending next financial year. And the questions around we need to be in an operating surplus because our Audit and Risk told us we need to be, they requested an ambitious goal, and our Executive Manager of Finance has been quite transparent, quite forthcoming in saying, look, we would love to achieve that. And I can move the figures around to show you how we achieve that if that's what you want, but it's going to be superficial at best. That kind of honesty has been the consistent messaging throughout here. And each spend that happens after the $3.6 million that we've already approved, each time that needs to be drawn down on into a facility that we need to inevitably up to counteract modern day expectations, to counteract $512 million worth of assets, to counteract the bottleneck of fundamental service delivery that we haven't been getting right. This is a part of that step to start correcting that direction. I am all for alleviating concerns, but I'm not for just deferring because unless we have a substantial reason why. Because what I was hearing was we need to go out to our community, we need to get our messaging right. The Audit and Risk isn't going to give you that. But unfortunately, I would love to say they're the silver bullet, they're going to answer all your questions. They're not. You're going to be able to ask the same questions you're trying to ask now, and hopefully they say it differently than what I'm saying it, that gives you some confidence. But they won't go out for community consultation on your behalf and explain it to all your all your voters. That's our job. I'm confident that I can explain this strategy. I'm confident that I can turn around and say, you know what, I agree. I'm a little bit apprehensive of just green lighting spending willy-nilly because that's somewhat what's happened in the past, and we're still trying to figure out how to clean that up a little bit here and there. But this is different between extending a facility and borrowing money. We need to be clear on that message. If nothing else, that's what we need to be consistent with. Because going into debt is different to having the facility to borrow money.
Any other discussion? Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, well, I believe it needs a seconder still, so I'll second it.
Nathan's a mover, we've got a seconder. Who's going to second it?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, look, yeah, we had a good discussion earlier, but, now we're talking about the motion itself. I think, look, we did approve a budget. Approving the budget did include, some of our long-term plans. If we're going to look good for, ASCOSA and for the LGFA and everything, doing this won't make us look bad with them. Approving a budget and then the budget, system collapsing because we aren't following it or doing the necessary things we need to do to follow it, to me seems like a bigger risk. I think if we've approved the budget and we've approved the direction and we're saying for the next several years we need to significantly increase our level of renewing our assets that are behind, then we need to follow that up with the relevant things that do that, which in this case includes loan borrowing. So I will support this motion.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks, do you want to speak, Councillor Kosh?
Yeah, thanks, Mayor. I will be voting against this. By 11 years, we'll still have a debt of over $10 million if we go down this path, because all of a sudden we increase our debt. By having the facility means we will take on the debt. Of course we will. That's the reality. I mean, you can play gymnastics, semantics, or whatever you like. We will incur the debt. In 11 years, we'll have a debt of, about $10 to $11 million. We probably can't do anything else other than renew our stormwater and stuff like that. So anything else that you want to do, you can forget about it. The audit committee has said we need to come to a balanced budget by the end of this term. They don't say that lightly. They don't, not at all. They're saying to us, we have to live within our means. We have to cut the cloth to make sure that we're not going into debt, because that's a really bad thing, because that is generational debt. It puts debt onto the future ratepayers. That's all it's doing. So I can't support raising the debt up to $45 million. I'm happy that it's potentially, half happy that it's only at 28, but I cannot support 45 because I know what the long-term implications are going to be for this community. I think it's a bad move, but I really would have thought you need to talk to the audit committee. You need to ask them, because that's what they're there for. They're the audit committee and they're audit and risk, and this is a very risky strategy. So I cannot support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? You want to speak again? You want to speak again? You haven't spoken yet? Oh, right, okay.
Thank you for that. Look, I put a lot of weight and stock in what Wendy and Sharon have done and worked together over the last 18 months to come up this, we're saying rushing things through. I'm not sure if those are the exact words, but it's been 18 months of hard work with Sharon picking these things apart and coming up with a solution to get us into an operating surplus, basically. We can keep doing the same as we have been doing for the last, 12, 14 years, and just borrowing to operate, not worrying about our renewals, end up with a wall down the end of the road that potentially could cost us $2 million because we didn't bother about looking after it. What we're doing here is not getting $15 million, taking it out and putting it in Sharon's bucket. We're not just going to rip it out when we want it and, you know, oh, let's go there. Here's got some pretty good stuff. Let's go get that. We're going to be, all of us here, and hopefully when the new chamber comes into term, we'll all be on the same path as what the staff and the town of Gawler is to actually provide a solid future going forwards with measurable outcomes. We're all going to be in it together, so we're not just going to take this money and run. We're not just going to spend it willy-nilly. I think we're all here and we're all smart enough and mature enough to understand what's at stake here. None of us are here to ruin Gawler. We want to see it thrive. So I will be supporting this. I think Sharon and Wendy, with both the presentation that's done and been done over the last 18 months, has brought us to this point, which I'm confident in supporting it. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other? Councillor Sample.
Thank you. It's interesting watching the email trail this week. And one thing I picked up especially, and it's been hammered a fair bit tonight, about the Audit and Risk Committee meeting that gave us advice, and that's what they're there for. And Councillor Solomon said, we're not all on that committee. But I may have thought they might have been asked to come along tonight, because they could have asked questions and not delayed this any longer, and they could be sitting back with all the community back there in those chairs, if you have a look. I think one of the things that's really driven me crazy is that ever since our finance department, who worked bloody hard, ever since they told us, slow down, we don't give out any money, you know, when the barrel is empty, we stop. We haven't stopped. I mean, some of the money that I've seen go out this year is mind-boggling. And, you know, have we still got a debt of a $2 million wall up the top of the street that's going to fall down? Pig's bum. I don't understand. There's a $2 million debt. I don't know where that's written, but the finance team will follow that up. We also get told that when a staff member leaves, we replace them straight away. Well, I'm sorry, but was it necessary? Because there's been an investigation, a consultant was hired to look into one of the teams, which is a very important one, and that is their infrastructure team. Well over $200,000 for that particular report. Has anything changed? No. We didn't look at it, but the 200 grand was spent, and there was other consultants and things like that. The other part that really concerns me is that we all last week voted unanimously for a new CEO. He's probably sitting home now having a red. But I'll tell you what, when November comes, he'll come in here on his Harley and he'll roar the bloody hell out of it, but he's going to also pick up a lot of problems. And I feel he will fix them with the support of the staff that we've got. But we've got to stop giving money away, and whether it's to do the Show Society, the carols, or whoever it is, the bin's empty. And I feel sure our finance department are going to make sure that is going to happen with a new CEO that comes in that really wants to get that Harley revving.
Thank you. Councillor White.
Thanks, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Sample, for putting a smile on everyone's faces. I'm happy to support this motion. I'm happy to, on behalf of the community, support raising the debt ceiling, $15 million, not the debt. Look, one thing that was mentioned tonight that actually does concern me is if something does happen, a major cost opens up in our infrastructure, for example, overnight, we actually don't have the cash at the moment or the option to borrow that cash. So if something does happen and we urgently need money, right now that's not possible. So I see the benefits in that. And again, want to reiterate that this is not approving $15 million cash that we're just taking out now. No, every budget cycle, it needs to go through, this is what we're spending it on, this is how much we're going to borrow, which then goes through the Audit and Risk Committee and goes out to our community again. We're not just taking the cash and running now. All we're simply doing is giving ourselves the option to, as we need to for each project, and that normally happens every financial year through the budget and business plan. So we're not taking any money now, but I'm very happy to give us the means in order to proceed with the hard work that our finance and infrastructure team have done over the last 18 months to actually give us a pathway out of the position we're in and showing us the light at the tunnel, which, to be honest, at the end of the day, the LGFA and ASCOSA and everyone that's watching us, that's what they want to see. They want to see that we've got a set plan and we've got a path and we're following it. And I can see that that's what we're trying to achieve. So for the benefit of the community in the long run, very much happy to support the motion at the moment.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks, you can wrap up the debate.
Thank you, members. Just a couple of points to make. When we're forecasting, as an executive manager of finance, I've been very clear in the past. There is no crystal ball to this, but sound business decisions are made on sound business strategic planning. And we have all been in agreement in this room that we are starting to ask the right questions, starting to talk the right language, starting to get given the right data. I'm doing my best to assist any way that I possibly can, any member. No fear or favour here. I'm on your Audit and Risk Committee. Use me to be able to ask the independent members whatever you want to ask, which you also have the capability to do off your own bat as well. They're assets, but they don't tell us what to do. They make recommendations, but they don't tell us what to do. We have a strategy in front of us that one of my colleagues pointed out, that in 10 years' time we'll be still in $10 million debt. Bloody hell, that's fantastic for a business with $512 million worth of assets. That's fantastic for a business that spends 15+ million on staff each year. That's fantastic for a business that right now has $40 million in revenue, but by natural inflation and growth, that 40 million grows as well. But our debt ratio can be down to $10 million if we follow this strategy. How good is this? And then we talk about surplus. We need to be in an operating surplus. We were told we need to do it this year. Sorry, I can't do that. I mean, I can fudge the books. I can operate in the grey area, but it'll be superficial at best. Do you want a surplus or do you want an actual surplus? We want an actual surplus. Be honest. We don't want the financial ratios tweaked for some superficial KPIs to be met year by year. We want problems identified so we can work together on solutions. That's what we've been doing. That's the work we've been doing. So if we can get to a position where we've only got $10 million worth of debt in 10 years' time, that's a good thing, because not all debt is bad debt. That's the modern day business knowledge. We know that. Gone are the days where you can live not in debt. We've got people that can't buy into the housing industry. We've got all these things going on right now, and we've learnt all this, and not spending has a detrimental risk to it as well. That's what we're picking up the pieces on. That's not an opinion piece anymore. That isn't Councillor Shanks sitting here going, oh, look, I can't support this budget because we're not focusing on fundamental services. That's what our service reviews are now telling us. I don't even have to preach it anymore. It's there for you. So right now, our quality improvement is something we need to focus on as an organisation. And we're seeing some of that come through, and I'm seeing some of that come through for the first time in my time on council. I'm heartened by it, I'm intimidated by it, but we're here to help solve problems. This is one minor step. And to be clear, $11.6 million does not get spent until we okay it, until it goes to the Audit and Risk Committee, until it goes to our community, until it aligns with our strategic plans we have in the future, because we're getting closer to be able to articulate them in a factual manner. Not, oh, I think we should spend money here. We're done with that now. This is how we're going to do business. So I'm hopeful we can get some support around the room, and I offer offline helping whoever I have to, because I believe so passionately about implementing a strategy that stops repeating the same.
Okay, the debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Division. All those in favour of the motion, please stand and I'll call your names out. Councillor Lorna, Councillor White, Councillor Davies, Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Shanks, Councillor Solomon and Councillor Samble. All those against, you stay seating. All those against is Councillor Hennessy and Councillor Koch. Thank you. You may take your seats. Okay, so now we move on to 10.2, Draft Gawler Community Plan 235. The Council adopts the Draft Gawler Community Plan 235 for the purpose of community exhibition as outlined in this report. Yes.
What does it mean by exhibition? And will the comments that we've got here...
Where are you reading it?
Well, it says it's going to be for community exhibition.
Where are you reading that?
In the motion.
Oh, for the purpose of community exhibition?
Yes. Could I
community consultation, that should be consultation.
Should it?
Yeah.
Okay, that's where I
should
got
be
wrong.
consultation.
Yeah, okay.
It's consultation.
Okay, righto. And will that community consultation include all the comments that we've got in this report? Because they need to go somewhere.
Community consultation. So if we change the word to community consultation. Thank you. Thank you. Of community consultation as outlined in this report. Yeah.
Yeah, and also, I just want to understand what's happening with the comments that we've got in here. Will they be part of the community consultation?
David.
So through the Chair, to clarify, those comments have already been incorporated into the draft plan. So the comments came back around the draft objectives and strategies that Council considered the last time I looked at the community plan a few months ago. Those comments have been incorporated within the draft community plan that's presented tonight as the draft community plan 2035. And to clarify, the term exhibition was deliberate. In the next steps section of the report, on page 19, I think it is, of 69, it actually states we wanted to go out for exhibition to the community with the designed document for feedback on the aesthetic, as we've already done consultation on all of the words and content in the draft vision, mission, strategies, objectives and pillars. So the first set of that was done last calendar year and ratified by Council in March this year. And the second set of that, the objectives and strategies, is the ratification that we have today in front of us based on the consultation that occurred over July and August.
Yep, thank you.
Is there any scope for changing any of the wording now?
Through the Chair, there's always scope for changing the wording until Council adopts the actual strategy, which we're intending to present back to Council, I think it was at the October Ordinary Council meeting.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you, David. Yeah.
Happen.
Well, it'll come back as a report, won't it? Yeah, it'll come back as a report.
So how do people get to add any more?
So through the Chair, through the exhibition period, there's opportunity for feedback.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we've got community consultation as outlined in this report. Community exhibition, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. Where are we reading? Next steps. Where? Oh, next steps. Being overwhelmingly supported. The next step is for the fully designed document to be placed on community exhibition, enabling the community to provide feedback on its aesthetic. Exhibition is proposed to occur from 4th to 27th September 2024. Okay. Yeah, okay.
Can I ask a question? From memory, the steps of consultation for the community plan are predetermined. Is that by...
We've got a public policy of community
Right.
consultation.
Yeah, I think the confusion is, and it seems to be happening in here as well, it's certainly in the community, is there are so many steps of consultation for this. We're almost confusing because they're going to see it again and wonder, well, they won't, like we did, not understand the, you know, now the words are done, now we want you to tell us about the look and feel of it. So we can't stop in the middle of this process, but we may wish to review that because you can over-consult and annoy with the community.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. So, yeah, community exhibition. 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 Doesn't make sense. Anyway, doesn't make sense. Okay. So, who wants to move and second it? You want to move? Councillor Sample is moving the motion. Who would like to second it? Councillor Vallelonga, thank you. And moved, seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. Thank you. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any discussion? Yeah.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, happy to support this motion. I think the community engagement and consultation that's taken place over the course of many months has been fantastic. We've had some really positive feedback, not only with the community but with ourselves as elected members. I thought the way that we facilitated those workshops was fantastic. And I'm actually very much in favour of having this phase 2 exhibition stage where, you know, there's physical and digital copies. I'm presuming that the community members will literally be able to flick through, have a read, provide any additional comments if anyone picks anything up, but also for the look and feel, because as we all know, this plan is the overarching plan for our organisation, for our town, and the look and feel does actually matter as much as the words and content inside of it as well. So, yeah, very much happy to support this motion. I look forward to hearing the final round of feedback and then look forward to, you know, hopefully adopting this plan so we can use it as our base moving forward in all that we do. And I just, yeah, quick note to say that I think the actual content and the feedback that's come through in the report has been really, really positive. And personally, I believe the content really very much aligns with our community and our goals. And yeah, like I said, happy to support.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, you know, we did have a presentation from Mr. Adrian Shackley, which we thank him for tonight, and he did pick up on some of the consultation feedback, as I know we all did. Some of it was, I agree with him in relation to, we need to do more in regards to empty shops. I agree with him to a degree on the misunderstanding of our role as council, but it does then fall under the hat of economic development and the like. So I think council does have a role to play, but I do acknowledge that maybe the feedback wasn't quite in theme. But what I was sort of heartened about is some of that feedback that we got through is some of the more educated feedback that I've seen throughout a community consultation. Like, realistically, and I say that with all due respect, I don't say that to take away from the other numbers, but I'm saying consistently I'm starting to plot themes. And we've seen community consultation before that, you know, is 10 people or 20 people and it's a mixed bag, and then it gets regurgitated back with, you know, 25% said this, and it's like, well, that's 2 people out of 26,000 that potentially could have done this. Whereas the themes, I think, have been picked up quite well, and some of the concerns, I think, are warranted to a degree with some of that feedback that then feeds back into the previous discussion that we were talking about, and then captures that all with community expectations and the like. But yeah, it's not as a mixed bag as what I'm used to, if that's what I'm trying to say. So I really thank the community for going through the process, and some of the pillars that we've agreed to as council are going to have to tie into our long-term financial plan clearly, and then in turn it links back to the last item of actually delivering these community goals, not just giving motherhood statements of, oh yeah, we'd like to do these things. Strategies of boots on ground action on how you're going to deliver on them is where our work begins. But yeah, like I said, I thank the community for putting in, and I think the drop-in sessions, although I missed both, but I think, you know, talking to my colleagues, I think it was quite a beneficial thing to do. So I do like the fact that we're trying these different things and we're getting successes. So, you know, I thank Bryce and his team as well for those attempts.
Thank you. Councillor Samble, do you want to wrap up the debate? Thank you. Are you happy for me to put the motion? Yep. Thank you. The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we're on page 22 of 69, Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority Charter Review. Yep.
I'm just wondering how we're going to do this. I've got some comments I'd like to make, which is going to be more than 5 minutes.
More than 5 minutes. Well, you need to speak again.
Well, I suppose. I mean, I wanted to go through the...
You have 5 minutes and then you can speak again.
Oh, okay.
Okay. All right.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
All right. You can speak again. You can speak again.
True.
Who would like to move the officer's recommendation? Who'd like to move the officer's recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Solomon.
Happy to move that recommendation. I'm sure there'll be some debate on the item given what it's proposing, but a lot of it here is really in regard to there's a lot in here which is about clarifying different procedures that happen at Norma, but also bringing things into line with reality and how they actually work, but also around the confidentiality of meetings and related documents. This is something which has been talked about at Norma for quite a long time, because every meeting there'll be maybe one item which is an education item about recycling nappies or something which we don't move into confidence for. But the majority of the items at those board meetings have the need to go into confidence, and so we move the motion to go into confidence, and then we talk about the item, and then inevitably the chair forgets to do the motion to move out of confidence, and we talk about what needs to be kept and what doesn't. And a way that was suggested to us as part of some legal advice was actually to have those release the information which is public, which should be public into the public domain after we've without the need. And that's the motion that we have at the end of the meeting. So really, that's what that clause is about. No one, certainly not in my time on the board, and I know Councillor Kosh has served on the board longer, but I've never seen anyone rock up to a Norma meeting from the public, and they would have to sit out for the vast majority of it, actually. So I imagine there'll be some debate about that clause, but there's nothing malicious in there. You know, as the Norma person on the board, if people have concerns about that, I'm happy to address those as well. Also, of course, that chairperson one will probably be a contentious one, but that's... sorry. No, that's all. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion? We've got do we have a seconder? Councillor Lorna, thank you. Councillor Lorna seconded it, thank you. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Any other discussion?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I I have I've never come across this idea of putting confidentiality of meetings and all related documents. And as a council-owned entity, I would take as given that the confidentiality umbrella is allowed for under the Act, but it makes me wonder as an elected member how I will be kept informed of what is occurring within the NORMA meetings, particularly as, by my understanding, that confidentiality will be binding on the 2 council reps that we elect to be on that group. So it's been explained to me that all that information should come to us via annual business plans and other documentations and reporting. I'm not aware in my more than 18 months that we've had any of that, but I know that there's a move to have that occur more. I have to have comfort because I feel like that's an incredible risk to us as a council to not understand what's happening. I understand it is a business and I understand it's in a highly competitive industry, but there's a complete lack of transparency while maintaining that commercial confidence. So I will support it, but I mark my concern and I look forward to better information flow back from NORMA to give me some degree of comfort that there's not any untoward or high-risk activity happening which would transfer to this council.
Councillor Koch?
Thank you, Councillor. That's a good segue into what I'm going to talk about. I'm looking at 5.1.5 on the attachments, page 190 of 275, and it says to research, develop, facilitate activities and or enterprises of any waste-related nature with the objective is beneficial, etc. I think that is a huge risk for NORMA and our council to get into any other enterprise that somebody thinks is a good idea. I think it changes the focus of NORMA. NORMA should be working at reducing its diversion rate, increasing its diversion rates. It should be doing things like weekly green bin, fortnightly red bin, fortnightly yellow, and picking up glass. That's what it should be doing. That's its core activities. I'm really concerned about any waste-related of nature. For example, I think it's $100,000 was put in the budget to do wastewater investigations for regional councils, I think. I'd like to know what that is. NORMA hasn't... I've been on the board for 12 years, I think, something like that. Never once have I seen NORMA have any expertise in wastewater in regional councils, ever. So all of a sudden, NORMA's going to be an expert on wastewater somewhere. I don't know, and it's going to cost $100,000. I think I just can't believe. I'd love to understand from somebody why the board agreed to that. I'd love to find out, but you know, there's an issue. I mean, and then you start getting into competitive neutrality. All of a sudden, it is a very, very competitive market. You all of a sudden get competitive neutrality. You're using ratepayers' money to compete against Visy or Integrated Waste Services or someone over here. I mean, we shouldn't be in that. We should be doing core things. You know, it's a bit of a long bow to say, oh, well, we'll do this, we'll make some money, we'll save you over here. You know, it's all these steps. I just think it's a huge, huge gamble and a huge, huge risk. Now, and the other risk you get is you know, legal risks. For example, if you have a commercial activity and it gets approved and somebody doesn't like it, you could end up in the Supreme Court, you know, administrative tribunals, you know, looking at what you actually did. You know, that's, you know, so somebody could do a commercial activity, it gets approval over here, and all of a sudden someone doesn't like it, and you're in court for the next, I don't know how many years. I mean, it's just really scares me. And then when I go on, it flows through the document. Again, it comes up at 6.2.8. Again, it's more, you know, waste-related activities. Okay, are you going to go out and collect out-of-date prescription drugs now, are you? Is that the next thing? That's a waste. You know, are you going to go and compete with the pharmacists collecting, drugs, for example? I mean, you wouldn't want to be doing that, would you? And it just keeps going on and on and on. I think NORMA, it almost looks like it's become an enterprise incubator than actually looking after the people. Then the next one I'm concerned about is the delegated power. Okay, yeah, $100,000 again. That's an issue. Yes. Then again, I'll just go through it again. Oh, bear with me. Again, board meetings, that's what Councillor Hennessy was talking about, 11.3, 11.4, 11.5. I think it is very restrictive to have everything automatically confidential, and I think it says to people, well, you know, something's happened, you know, so how can we find out, you know, what's going on? I mean, I asked for something and, you know, I was told I couldn't have it, and I was told I could have it, you know, and then I've got to sort of go and talk to someone and they've got to tell me whether it's okay for them to give them that information as an elected member. I just find that really, really difficult, and I think that's a huge, huge barrier. And then the other one I was concerned about was the committee members. It sounds like to me that you can have separate committees that have delegated power, and so you can have council members on it, but anybody else on it. And I think that's a huge, huge risk, that you could have, you know, this other committee, and I assume it's enterprise development, and they could be running over here, spending money because they've got delegated authority, and it's a huge risk for our council. You know, I think all the checks and balances aren't there. It's I find it very scary.
Okay, thank you.
So anyway,
Okay,
I probably won't be supporting it.
thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Lorna.
Thank you for that. I will be supporting, obviously sitting on the board and whatnot. I've gone through a lot of the conversations in there, and I think it's quite a good thing. So I want to touch on a few things that Councillor Koss is saying there about any other duty. I don't understand why we would not allow Norma, who at the end of the day is a resource management business, to be able to deal with any other duty, such as if they see fit is to get their own trucks, do solar panel reclaiming, anything else that you're dealing with. You're talking about drugs. It is a waste. It needs to be dealt with. If there's money in it, they need to make money. We need to make money go forward. It's not limit ourselves, you know, to a little thing. We're going to pick up our green bin and that's it. I don't understand whether that is a good business model going forwards for the town of Gawler or for any other, basically waste management in general. Talking about wastewater, the new chairman there has quite a lot of work in the wastewater industry. I work for one of his ex-CEOs at the moment who also work in the wastewater industry. So there is a lot of actual information and knowledge sitting there, untapped reserves. I'm a little bit flabbergasted as to why we're sitting here and say, no, you can't do that, as if we own Norma. We don't own them. Well, I disagree with you saying that we own them. We are working with Norma and we are in comparisons with two other constituents. So, you know, we have members of our council sitting there with them, but, you know, to sit there and say you can't do this and you can't do that, if it's a viable solution and going forwards for waste, who are you to say that our waste is this, that's it? That's what I've taken from you. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that for the moment. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I think I've always preached this because credit where credit's due. I think the Norma model was one of the best decisions past councils, chambers have made, and it has been able to show the real savings by actually partnering with two massive metro councils in Salisbury and Playford to develop Norma. What I'm liking about Norma is learning where their goals are, their aspirations, and their drive. You know, you've got a CEO that overtook the last one that has a clear passion for the industry, has innovative ideas, and also the new chair that was appointed more recently was appointed by that board because that board had the appetite when the outgoing chair retired to bring someone in with targeted focus, targeted business management techniques that would help take Norma to the next level, be one of the front runners in the industry. Now, for me, I'm all about having the conversations about those innovative ideas with our company that we are a third shareholder of. Absolutely, there is no denial there. But also we rely on our company to make sure that the business is viable year after year after year after year. And I think what they're telling us is, you want business as usual, we need to amp this up. Modern day waste management isn't just pick up the wheelie bins. It may be, we can't stop doing that, but we also need to be looking at other initiatives that may be available. I think that's a positive thing personally, in my own opinion. And I do rely on our elected members that sit on the board. And again, hopefully there's concerns that can be alleviated should the conversations flow through freely. But I would hate to think that we're so disillusioned with Norma because they're trying new things, they're trying new business strategies, that we go back to the old mentality of having to deal with the bin collections ourselves. We be another council that doesn't own a bin collection company, a waste management company. We actually contract Norma, like Light do, like other councils do. Norma's reach across 68 councils is quite impressive for what they support. And that's because of past Chamber's decisions, which I thank those elected members for making. And this is a part of that modern day evolving of waste management as we learn more, in my opinion.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Solomon, if you want to wrap up the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll start by addressing Councillor Hennessy's concern. I thank Councillor Hennessy for raising that. In regard to the confidentiality, nothing's changing from how it is at the moment. We still retain our rights, if I've understood correctly. Someone else who's on the Norma board, correct me if I'm wrong, but we still retain our rights to request any information we should want from Norma. It doesn't actually change anything because we move those items into confidence with manually every time that a motion comes up. So we'll have 8 items on the Norma agenda, 7 of which are commercial in confidence. We'll do the same thing that we do here. And we'll put the reason for what that is in a motion, say we're moving into confidence for this reason. We'll debate the item in confidence, and then after that we'll have a motion determining whether or not it stays in confidence. And doing the inverse, all it does is take away the need for that huge procedural burden, whether we're doing that 14 times in a meeting. But the constituent councils are still allowed to request any information, and of course there's a lot of information which Norma comes to us to present, which is almost all the information which Norma has come to present to us in confidence has been in confidence at a Norma meeting. So it doesn't actually materially change anything, and as we know, we're allowed to request whichever document we should want from Norma, especially if it's in the possession of the council administration here. That's been tested. So just in regard to some of Councillor Koch's concerns, I would just start by going back to some of what I think Councillor Shanks was getting at there. But we formed Norma and we worked together with the 2 other constituent councils in order to have the Northern Adelaide Waste Management Authority. That means that without the 3 of us working together, it doesn't exist. And if we really, really have a problem with the direction that Norma is heading, we have a clear option to us, which is to leave Norma. And I think that would be an absolutely terrible idea. But if we keep attempting to strong-arm the other 2 councils into doing things when that is the will of the majority of the members of the Norma board, those expulsion clauses and those other things in here start to look real good. And that's a problem, because we need to figure out how we're going to work with these other 2 councils. And if we want to address things like, I understand what Councillor Koch is saying about taking on some of these extra projects, we have a risk profile that needs to be managed, because that risk, Norma's risk, is Town of Gawler's risk as well. Mind you, a lot smaller risk than the other two councils put in, and we get a great deal out of that. But we need to manage that. And in order to do that, the way to do it is not to try and strong-arm the other two councils by using this forum and the rules that are in the charter to do that. It's to have those meaningful discussions at the Norma board meetings. And my experience is that the other councils have been quite receptive to listening to our concerns, should we put them respectfully, and should we have those discussions. And I think that the new chair has also done a great job at that and working through things with Andrew and with Jack, even outside of those meetings. So I don't think that there's any concern in that area. Things like wastewater, if we want to start looking at that, there's an appetite for it. If it fits the risk profile, then that's where we go ahead. If it doesn't, we communicate that to our fellow members. But the subsidiary exists for us to work together. The alternative to that is to not be part of that subsidiary, and I think that would be an awful idea because we are stronger and better for having Norma there.
Thank you. The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. 10.4, 29 of 69. I'm on page 29 of 69. Permanent part road closure of Holmes Street, Williston. Who would like to move that way? Yeah, you'd like to move that way? Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, congratulations to staff. I like the way that we are moving forward slowly. Moving forward in a stepped way with some of the bigger sporting facility plan, and I think this one is a good one to start with. And I look forward to getting some feedback. I suspect, for the reasons given here, it will be hopefully clear what it is we're trying to achieve, and we'll get some good feedback from the surrounding community. So happy to support it.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lorna, thank you. Councillor Lorna has seconded the motion. Thank you. So, any discussion? Yep.
If I could, Mayor, could I ask a question through you?
Yeah.
Just around process. I know that road closures can take a minute, so I'm just trying to get my head around pulling the trigger on this, I guess, now, which I'm not against. I'm just trying to, stitch it together with what outcomes come after, et cetera, if I could.
So, your question is around why we're doing it now?
Yeah, why we're doing it now, and then what the process, like how the length of the process could take, and then the end result of what we're trying to achieve.
Who would like to answer that question? Bryce.
Sorry, Bryce. I saw you over there.
Bryce Norton.
Yeah, he wants to be involved.
Thank you, through the chair. A lot of the requirements and the outcomes of closing roads in those parts are actually influenced by the type of road, its function, and also the feedback that comes through the community engagement process here. And in speaking with Richard Frimpong, our traffic engineer, this scenario here is quite unique given what it is and given its environment. It doesn't serve traffic at the moment. It has no physical way of actually serving traffic at the moment. There's no properties that border onto that there. So the expectation would be with the engagement process we go through, we'll come back with any feedback, any comments that come out of there. But the actual process to close the road can be quite quick. And really from the outside perspective, nothing will change. It will be maintained by Council's open space team in the same way that it is right now. And it's really an administrative process in terms of it not being part of that formal road reserve, which it currently is, which then does, if we had an opportunity present, we could look to redevelop that part of the master plan and that part of the open space area. It would then become part of our community land management plan for Elliott Goodger Memorial Park as well.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? Yeah? Yeah? Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, if I could, Mayor. Yeah, I just wanted to speak to the debate if I could. Thank you for that clarity, Bryce. It is good to hear that it is a somewhat simple process. The only reason I ask is, you know, I know you're under the pump, I know the staff are under the pump, and if we're pursuing something that is a bit of a process to pursue, I'm just trying to understand the why, but I'm heartened to understand it's more of a, look, we can follow through this process, and if it happens now, all good, and we're actually situated well, should an opportunity present. Not saying one is, but that's one step. So yeah, look, I'm more than happy to support this. I think the Elliott Goodger master plan is being well received and is still being well received. And it is good to be able to tie in the parcel of land as a consolidation of the future shape of the land at the very least. So yeah, look, I'm more than happy to support this. I'm interested to see what comes back. I do know a couple of businesses in that area that, you know, may use that as a rear lane access, even if they're probably not supposed to. I'm interested to hear about that. But yeah, it sounds like an administrative thing, so interested to see how that runs out.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? The debate is now closed. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion carried unanimously. Monthly finance report on page 38 of 69. Who would like to move the officer's recommendation? Who would like to move the officer's deputy mayor? Seconded by Councillor White. Thank you. Officer's recommendation moved by Deputy Mayor Davies and seconded by Councillor White. Thank you. Yep. Question.
Sorry, Mayor, just a question. I noticed this is in our decision report, but it's the noting report.
It's a noting report.
Just some clarity around that. I think there's something about us having to endorse it, or I don't know.
Well, it's a noting report. It's a noting report. It should have been in the information reports. Yeah. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. Because of the situation that our society and that is at the moment, I remember here a couple of years ago where so many people had to apply to pay their rates in, you know, very much instalments and so forth. Mm-hmm. Is there any, I mean, the rates are due at the moment because my wife paid hers, mine today, and that sort of thing, so we can keep in business for a bit longer. But I'm just wondering, is there any difficulties in our community paying the rates? We used to get a report on, yeah, it was bad here.
We did used to get a report on people not paying their rates. So, Sharon?
Through you, Mayor. So that information goes through to the Audit Committee on a annual basis in relation to, I suppose, the level of outstandings and any positions that they may want to take in relation to recovery of it. Just generally on the payment of rates, what we actually find that a lot of the community actually enter into voluntary instalment plans, so they'll actually, rather than pay it on a quarterly basis, they will just ring up council and say, can I just make a, you know, basically divide their total bill and divide it by 12 and just pay each amount on a monthly basis. So a lot of the members a lot of the community do that to actually manage that. In relation to what I would say is true outstanding is actually quite low. I think that there's a few people that are actually on payment plans because they're actually finding having, I suppose, payment difficulties. But majority of the people that I would sit there and say are outstanding are just people that just don't want to pay their rates, because there are a lot of people in the community that won't pay rates until we send them to debt collection. So I think that we provide a lot of payment options and work with the community for those that actually have those payment difficulties as well.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Sharon. Okay, so Deputy Mayor Davies, are you happy for me to put the motion? Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, carried unanimously. We've done 11.1. 11.2. Business Innovation Hub Year in Review. Yep. Happy to move it. Thank you. Councillor Hennessy has moved it. Do I have a seconder? Do I have a seconder? Deputy Mayor, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Oh, you wanted to speak? Yep, thank you.
Yeah, I apologise for the inconvenience, but yes, I would like to speak to this one. Look, the Innovation Hub, as members have known, we moved a motion a while ago now to try to pull out the Business Innovation Hub out of the Civic Centre quarterly report. The intent of that, so we're clear, is to ensure that we understand how that business is running if we look at it as an isolated business. Members will remember the conversations around the model and the holding pattern we're currently in. Look, it's a chicken and egg thing. I get that. And, you know, I can feel David behind me thinking I can't do anything more without the resources, but we can't justify the resources without a strategy of what it is going to look like. So it is a stalemate at this point in time. But I just want to point out that this facility that we're sitting in right now is a $15 million facility that has multiple arms of different business undertakings. The Business Innovation Hub is one of the undertakings that was spruiked to the council of the time of a positive outcome. It's on a list of other items that were spruiked that were going to be a positive outcome as well, and I'm sure we operated in the best interest of the community at the time and we provided the best information we could. But unfortunately, here we are in 2024 and we're getting the copy and paste reports, which I acknowledge must be frustrating. But the intent of the reason we asked for those reports is to show that we're interested in this facility and what are we going to do with it long term. These copy and paste reports are taking resources that we could dedicate to coming up with a model that may work. But we don't have some of the data that we need to understand for the business case, because what we've always got is, well, staff don't clock the time, this Business Innovation Hub. It's hard to give you power consumption for the Business Innovation Hub. But guess what? We made a surplus. Unfortunately, that's a superficial surplus. I'm sorry, but it is a superficial surplus. If we actually want to dive into what that cost us, what our return on investment is. And that was the intent of the motion that was moved, and that's what Council covered. Now, if we move that to annual reporting, which I'm not necessarily against because we're not getting any new information, but we're still no closer to figuring out what we're going to do with this business, I do wonder how that comes about. We move a motion saying we want quarterly updates, and then we say, oh, just by the way, we're going to now give it to you annually. But this $15 million asset that we have invested in hasn't been fully realised with the Business Innovation Hub. We're still trying to work through the cafe things. We're in this holding pattern, and I don't know where to go from here, unfortunately, because without that clear direction, we're just going to keep on going around in circles and realistically being a commercial landlord.
David, do you want to make any comments?
Through the Chair, I do actually concur with Councillor Shanks that we are in this holding pattern stage. As council staff a few years ago, we actually attempted to put in a model in place around shared arrangements with Regional Development Australia, Barossa Gawler, Adelaide Plains and the Business Gawler groups. That motion was lost. We had a presentation from Business Gawler around potential options, and that hasn't gone any further. We've actually sought more information from Business Gawler about that and unsolicited proposals, and it's never been forthcoming. So we have been in that holding pattern. I agree with commentary around it's hard to unpick costs, and that's just the structure of our business at this point in time and the way we are managing the hub on a shoestring in terms of our staff just fitted in with their day-to-day duties to assist members. So I totally get where Councillor Shanks is coming from. The challenge, as we all understand, is having that viewpoint of where we're going to go in the future. I'm hoping that by going to an annual reporting structure, it takes a bit of that administrative burden off, which is essentially copy and pastes and adding a few numbers and tweaking a few percentages, to enable us to focus on what the actual opportunities are around that space. Also, as Council would be aware, in July, I think it was, from memory, there's an application in train around a different opportunity for the space. We're waiting on outcomes of that application. If that's a positive application, we'll be having a completely different conversation around the space itself. So there are a few things in train there. So that's realistically where I'm at with the philosophy behind looking at year-end reviews rather than quarterly updates.
Thank you. Thank you, David. Okay. So that council notes the Civic Centre Year in Review report. The Council Business Innovation Hub, sorry, Helen Hennessy, Deputy Mayor Davies. Any other discussion? Councillor Koch.
Yeah, it's a perennial question. It was on page 48 of 69. It's 48? Just about page 48 of 69 in our agenda.
48, yep. Which paragraph?
Oh, it's the big paragraph underneath the table, basically. It's talking about people moving on. How are those conversations going? It seems like there's a couple that are sort of stuck. And, a few have moved on, but a few are just staying. I'm just wondering how those conversations are going.
Okay, so David, thank you.
Through the Chair, the conversations are actually progressing quite well with a couple of the businesses. We're actually expecting another one to exit the hub shortly. We'll wait for the notification soon. So that's a good transition out into a new private commercial premises, which is fantastic. Attraction is low for business uptake of the hub. So whilst it's great to have them move out, we'll lose that revenue side of things as well. So there's a competing business demand there. With one of the other businesses, they're also looking at relocation for their personal lives, but their staff all live in this area. So it's a bit of a binding point between the owner of the business and the staff and what's best for the business as a result. We are very much stuck with one business at this point in time who have sort of set their roots down and aren't looking to move anytime soon.
Thank you. Is that address your question? Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? That council, all those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we go to Gawler Civic Centre Year in Review. The council notes the Civic Centre Year in Review report. David, do you want to make any comments?
So through the Chair, this is very much similar to the Innovation Hub. We've been reporting quarterly to Council on the operations of the various 6 functions of the Civic Centre since before we actually opened. It used to be monthly before that. So it has been a while. And we're quite happy to provide general updates through other means, through communiques about events and activities that are occurring, and then we'll wrap this into an annual review report in the future, similar to what we do with other services within Council.
Thank you. Councillor Hennessy?
Yeah, Mayor, I'm happy to move the motion.
Yep.
And just as comment to go with it, I actually like the year review. I think that's quite adequate for us. It gives us sufficient detail. And I'm heartened by some of the statistics coming back. I think some of the areas, notwithstanding the previous conversation, I think some of the areas are working really well. and continuing to look for innovation to increase their business. I am getting particularly good feedback on the current operators of the Civic Centre Cafe. I think we might have hit a really nice combination there, and the community is really pleased to have those two operators in there. So well done to the staff involved, to the effort that's revealed in this year in review report.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder, Deputy Mayor? Do you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, the cafe, I have been down a couple of times. It seems like they had some early struggles with a working coffee machine and some other vital parts of the cafe. You know, when I went down during the, they were open while they were having that Jobs Expo, and it was quite a good addition to have the cafe functioning at that time. Yeah, look, when it comes to the annual reports, I think, probably some of the quarterly reports have served their purpose. I think there are some areas that, as Councillor Shanks highlighted before, there are some areas that are still struggling more than others. You know, the cafe is going to be at I think a 3 months, trial or 3 months they're in there, and then there's going to be another decision. And so maybe that's the sort of thing that might need more than an annual report if major changes to who the operators are happen several times a year potentially. So that's, but yeah, some of the stuff that is functioning quite smoothly, I'd be more happy with as an annual item.
Thank you. Right, Councillor Shanks, you wish to speak again?
No,
I spoke
to the Business Innovation one.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
you.
Thank you, Mayor. I mean, absolutely. You know, sometimes I can probably be confused with someone that's looking for return on investment being financial return on investment, and I talk about business opportunities and ROIs and the like. When we talk about local government and delivery, and sometimes I'm talking about return on investments, that's that civic outcome. You know, the good news stories as well. I don't disagree with our $15 million asset that we're sitting in right now, delivering so many good projects for our programs for our youth in our library services. I'm excited to see the cafe operate again, noting that we're on our third or fourth go at this. But again, with that annual, as what Deputy Mayor pointed out, if we're on a 3-month trial and then we don't know what happened with the cafe until 8 months after the fact, which I'm sure won't happen, mind you. I'm sure we'll get it in the communique and the like, but consistent messaging of updates, I think, is something we can work together as a team, the executive and the elected body, and I think that's probably going to tie into our committee structure conversation in November as well, like what we're hoping to expect in report writing from our staff. How does this tie into this, that and the other? A business as usual report, copying, pasting and tweaking a few numbers, I agree with David Barrett. If you're using resources that you don't have or you're stretched thin on to give us copy and paste reports, and we're sitting here talking about copy and paste reports, we're just wasting everyone's time. So if it's business as usual and the highlights can be passed through in real time, I think that's a potential better process moving forward.
Do you want to say something, David?
Just through the chair, just wanted to be very clear on the annual review process. It's a wrap-up of all activities from the financial year. If there are specific decision points around specific activities, they'll be brought to council when they're required. So, for example, the cafe, it's a 3-month permit, as both the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Shanks have mentioned. We are looking at that capital fit-out, which is in the budget for this financial year. We're hoping to do that over the January-February period. During that time, we need council to make a decision what it wants to do once that fit-out's occurred. That'll be standalone reporting so that the decisions can be made in real time in that basis. It's not waiting for the annual review. The annual review is to wrap up the entire operations for the year for the various business units.
Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? Councillor Hennessy, are you happy for me to put the motion? So I'm going to put the Gawler Civic Centre year in review. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we move on to recommendations from committees. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question. I've just noticed that there's a YAC item which appears to be missing, which is the youth sponsorships. And I'm just wondering if I could ask the question without notice to staff about what the time frame that's required for that to be done is, because I noticed that's not on the recommendations from committees unless I've missed something.
So where is the YAC? Where's the YAC recommendations? Where's the YAC recommendations? They're not in. That's right. Yeah, I know. I haven't got them in my.
Yeah, that's right. We know they're not. We're just whether the only reason I'm raising it now is because I'm just wondering whether the grants are time sensitive. That's all.
So where are they?
Through the chair, clearly the recommendations from YAC were missed off the agenda, and that's an oversight from our perspective. The YAC was actually deferred because of lack of quorum, so it's not normally in this monthly cycle process. It's every 2 months, so it was expected for September, so that's an oversight. In terms of Councillor Solomon's direct question, it's not time-bound issue because the applications are somewhat retrospective in terms of the attendances.
Yeah, that's correct. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we'll recommendation from committee, recommendations from the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee, meeting held on the 8th of August 2024. So you're happy to...
I need to declare
you need to declare
a general
interest?
conflict of interest because I'm a member of the Gawler, of the Zion Worship Centre, the Lutheran Zion. Yep. So I'll need to fill a form out, but I will stay in the meeting because I have a fair and open mind.
Okay, thank you.
But I just need to declare that as a general...
General conflict?
Just a general conflict.
Thank you.
Which is what I did in the Heritage Committee meeting as well.
Yes, you certainly did. So we have 6.1, permission to publish Mrs Duffield's Home and Garden. How do we wish to proceed? How do we wish to proceed? You happy to move, Deputy Mayor, and you happy to second? Thank you. 6.1, so Deputy Mayor has moved and Councillor Solomon has seconded. So I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Permission to publish Gawler Primary School 1904 school, that the Gawler recommends to Council that a copy of the photograph, The Kingdom of Kulu, Gawler Public School 1904, be provided to Mr Terry Williamson. How do we wish to proceed? How do we wish to proceed? How do we wish to proceed? It's all up to you, Councillor Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga has seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Motion symposium proposal. This is a really fantastic idea, that the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee recommends to Council that it notes the presentation on the proposed Heritage Symposium. It requests Council staff to work with the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee to further develop the proposal for the symposium and report back to the committee in this regard. Are you happy to move that way? Councillor Vallelonga has seconded. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. External bodies reports. Minutes of internal and external bodies. The minutes of the Football and Associated Sporting Clubs Future Infrastructure Needs Working Group, 15th of the 7th to 24. Yep.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move this, but I'll just take the opportunity just to give a quick update to my colleagues if I could. Our last meeting, I think I've updated members because we've moved it to bi-monthly of the substance of those meetings. But some of the actions that fell out of those meetings, I'm actually following through with, as I promised to the group, and I feel you guys in. I'll take the opportunity to fill my colleagues in as well. So I actually organised to go and meet with Mayor Claire Bone from Port Adelaide Enfield, because the interesting work they're doing in Port Adelaide Enfield is a bunch of auditing their infrastructure works that actually has been put to the group that we need to do here in Gawler, which makes perfect sense. We need to understand where our base levels are to understand where we need to go. And it was really interesting talking through the benefits that Mayor Claire Bone finds from these audits that are being carried out, and then they're helping inform budget cycles, long-term financial planning, using the facts, because I'm sure members would sympathise with this. A lot of the data they had was completely out of date. So they're working through and they're tying in this information to strategise on what needs to be upgraded, what needs to be renewed, what needs to be built new, while also actually working in a factor of use. You know, what is the high use areas and what are the low use areas? And let's not be confused by the people that are the loudest that we need to invest millions of dollars of money in, because the people that are the quietest is a part of the facility that's being used the most. I hope that makes sense. But those are the sorts of data streams they're able to unpick. And I'm sort of a little bit more over the process now by relying on one of our counterparts in another council area, sort of explaining through the process. And I look forward to sharing that information with the rest of the members on that one. Another good thing that's come out of more recent conversations, Mayor has been in these emails as well with Rebecca Tabbert, working for the SANFL. Now, those that don't know, Rebecca Tabbert was fundamental in the big project delivery in the Barossa, and then got snagged, non-surprisingly, by the SANFL. And we have a direct line in with Rebecca Tabbert, and we're actually getting, I saw an email the other, was that today, Mayor, or yesterday, in regards to, it was today, in regards to grant opportunities that align to the opportunities of small term, in lack of a better term, band-aids that the sporting clubs have identified, and Rebecca knows about that, so then has communicated that in through to council. So other than the cross-education that we're all benefiting from, I thought it would be worthy sharing that.
Thank you, Nathan. Yes, you've got a question?
I'm just looking on page 274, 275, it's almost at the end. It talks about an action. It says, all clubs to identify and provide lists of immediate, in brackets, prior to 2025 football netball season, infrastructure needs. Meetings to then be coordinated with individual clubs and relevant town council staff. And then it's got action. Council community loan policy to be distributed to working group members with meeting minutes. Now, I'd just like to know what would be will there be a list of...
Where are you reading? I'm on page 274.
Yeah, of 275. It's halfway down.
It's halfway down.
Yeah, it says action. Actions.
Action, council community loan policy to be distributed to working group members.
Yeah, will we be expecting a whole lot of needs from the groups?
Councillor Shanks?
Yeah, perfect question, and I appreciate you asking. So yes, this working group talks about, it does talk about the short-term and long-term needs, and what we've been talking through and where we've evolved, and I think I've touched on this previously, in defining the needs from the wants. And what we've talked about here is we were sort of going around in circles, like, oh, well, we need this, we need this, we need this. But there's no facts, there's no any logic or anything behind it, because they know what they need because they see it every day, but we can never seem to get it in a language that actually puts it on paper that actually would tie to any renewal of services, any opportunities, anything. And then the discussion about the loan policy was what that group rightfully talked about, and I thank Wendy for actually coming to that meeting as well, to talk about what opportunities are currently available within our current policies. Should there be, you know, we've given community loans before, and the clubs knew about them, but the action was, oh, well, we'll just send you the updated policy. But no, this working group hasn't got the function to be able to turn around and approve lists of spending and say the loan policy is how you're going to do it. The working group certainly has the function to be able to go, hey, these are the facilities that are available and what is it you're looking for? And that's what this is in a factual way. So it's trying to put it in writing. So to answer your question, yeah.
So it'll come to council. Council will make a decision on the loan policy, the community loan policy. Yeah.
Oh, I would say if a community group, as any community group would, if they choose to apply for some sort of loan, I would say that would come through a council staff avenue to then a report.
We will make the decision.
Yeah, working groups can't make decisions. Yeah, working groups can't make decisions. All we can do is facilitate the conversation within the working group and staff, which is all that's happening.
That's correct. Yep, thank you.
The reason why I ask is because some of the big ones that people are talking about are the change rooms, the modular change rooms. And when I look at the strategic projects in the report we had the other day, it says modular change rooms, 2930, $750,000. So I'm hoping people aren't going to say we need to borrow $750,000 to build a modular change room tomorrow. Yeah, good, because that's, yeah.
So yeah, I can certainly answer that, and Councillor Koch, you would know that our policy doesn't allow us to go to that sort of lending.
Well, we hope so.
Anyway, especially for a community group. Yeah. But the sort of project you're talking about is absolutely what's being discussed, and then even the bigger projects again, like later on down the track, are absolutely being discussed. Those needs are relevant to the modern day service delivery of those sorts of infrastructure. But no, I'm not seeing any appetite for any sporting club turning around and going, hey, we'll just borrow $750,000 from you guys and we'll be able to deliver it. Is the conversation trying to understand how we're delivering such a structure in Gawler Centrals right now? Absolutely. And mapping out the process that is involved to take those opportunities? Absolutely. Yeah, we are having those conversations. But no, I would never recommend to group members to approach council and ask for a $750,000 loan for a modular change room.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Okay, so you'd like to move a motion to extend the time?
Yes, please. We've only got a short bit here to move a motion that we extend the meeting until 10:30.
Till 11.
11 you want now?
Yeah. 11. We go to 10:30 anyway.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Solomon, thank you. Councillor Solomon seconded it. I'll just get that right. Thank you. So we move the motion to extend the time to 11 o'clock. Thank you. Extended to 11
We've finished in 2 minutes.
PM. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour?
Oh, I can see that.
Carried unanimously. Thank you.
I'll better check.
Did you vote? Did you vote? You didn't vote. Okay. It's carried. It's carried. Thank you. So we don't have any questions on notice.
We haven't finished
the council note. Okay, officer's recommendation that council note. Who wants to move that? Who wants to move that? You've moved it and you've seconded it. Thank you. Councillor Isaac Solomon has seconded. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So we don't have any questions on notice. Questions without notice? No? Yes, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm just... Right. Motions on notice, nil. Motions without notice. No questions on notice. Questions without notice? No. Motions without notice. Council member attendances and activities. I'll start. I had a radio interview with John DeFede on Italian radio yesterday, and I got there. I cancelled the meeting with the CEO, and I talked about boundary reform. We talked about toll roads. He brought up toll roads, and and so he talked about toll roads. We talked about our new CEO, and I was able to articulate some really good qualities of our new CEO. And we also had, I actually had the show opening, but I also judged the macaroons. I also judged the macaroons, so that was the highlight of my day. And I also judged the, I didn't judge the, I gave out the ribbons for the Gawler, Town of Gawler Horse Prize, and that was fantastic. And Leanne does a fantastic job there. They're all in it together, and she had her son there, and she had her mother there, and it was just fantastic. So, yeah. That was actually very good, and Ethan was there. I might hand over to Ethan because he was the MC, and he gave lots of interesting things to do.
And weather warnings on Sunday.
Thanks, Mayor. No, I think the Gawler show was obviously, I think the highlight of lots of local people's weekend. It was a fantastic event. The Show Society were very, very happy with the result. They got just under 25,000 patrons through the gates, which is a pretty solid effort, considering that Sunday's weather was not ideal, to say the least. No, overall, very, very positive feedback. I think from community members, the most positive feedback was that the gate fee was relatively affordable, and once you're in there, there was lots of free things that you could do. So for families in particular, that was really important. I think some of the key highlights for, particularly for families, the animals are always popular, but there was a big truck display, which was quite, you might have seen, apparently the crane that was there was 88 metres high. Apparently you could see it from the main street.
I saw that crane.
So it was very impressive. And Mayor, you did a very good job at presenting the ribbons on the horses. I did see you practicing beforehand. It was harder than it looks.
Leanne tied them up.
Yes. Tied them up. So overall, I think the show, it was a pleasure to be there, obviously, but I think they were very, very happy, and the community were happy. The only other event I was going to mention too that I also went to was the Arts on the Plains launch a couple of weeks ago in the James Martin Room, which I thought was a good event, and set the scene for...
So I did a Todd Street with Daniel Down and Aaron Down and somebody else. I can't remember his name. What was his name? I can't remember his name. But he does photography of birds and lizards, and I loved his lizard It was just absolutely beautiful. Erin Down does horror stuff, and she does some really, really good work. And Daniel, we all know what Daniel does, and so it was fantastic. It was really, really good. Yeah. And then I came to the CAP meeting. And I saw Isaac talking, and we have a mosque that's been approved, and I think that's actually a really good thing. I think that's a really good thing. It's good for diversity, it's good for inclusion, and I think it will be good for our Muslim friends. So I think and I actually work with a Muslim girl, a nurse, and she's absolutely magnificent. So so that's really good. So done. Anybody else? Yes. Oh, and I went to Mamma Mia. I went to Mamma Mia on Friday night, and that was just amazing. It was just amazing. It was amazing. Sorry, Isaac.
That's good. Yes. I just want to mention, yes, of course, I went to the show. Councillor White and I got pressured by one of the young ambassadors who was doing a very good job at persuading us to look at what all the show had to offer. So we got pressured to go on a ride. If you heard any screaming, that wasn't me, that was Councillor White.
You
the
were
show
screaming?
I was trying to say woohoo, but my face was not saying that at all. I managed to hold on to my lunch, but yes, that was the show was fantastic this year. It was good to see so many people there. Of course, Arts on the Plains as well. Wanted to mention, of course, that's a collaboration which was Business Gawler, Tony Piccolo MP, and Town of Gawler together. But also, I want to mention that, of course, the Gawler Makers Market, who gave that space as well in the James Martin room for that. So, and I think it worked quite well with the market there as well, which I attended and I bought some jams and things, and it was certainly good to go there after. And I will just mention, borders on, but by virtue of that event, I found out about a film which was happening at the Mercury in Adelaide, which I attended. Of course, the Minister for Arts attended here here in Gawler, but of course both of us are Cypriots as well, and so I, by virtue of speaking to her there, was able to go to that film, and it's a fantastic film called Two Homelands. If anyone wants to check it out, and it's a sort of community project. It requires some donations, but it's an excellent film about Cypriot Australians. Of course, my family moving, especially up into this area as well. It tells that history, and so that was really great to be invited to that as well. So that's me done.
Thank you. Anybody else? Brian?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Karen. It's been a pretty interesting month. The first thing I attended is an ACRIM, which is Radio Communication for Safety Monitor, and that was for the Malala 6-hour motorbike trial, where 32 Gawler young lads rode in the solar event, and 4 sidecar. More ladies now are getting into the sidecar event. If you've never attended one of these events, the next one's going to be at Clare. It's a great event to go. The Variety Bash, my wife went up to see our second great-grandchild born, so my dog and I were home, and Larry Cavaliero rang and said, come on up to Broken Hill, the Variety Bash gets in tonight. So we pulled the swag out and went up to Broken Hill, and if ever you want to get involved with a rally or an event, the Variety Bash, where they raise so much money, but did we have some fun? And without a doubt, so they had to change the route, which went from there to White Cliffs, the open mining town, to Cobar, to Burke and Cunnamulla, Charleville, and then to Surfers Paradise. So I didn't think I'd better take my wife's car on those back roads. So because it's bitumen all the way to Tippaborough now, we just popped up to Tippaborough, which is at the border, and slept on the road at Packsaddle. So we had a great time. The bloody dog snored all night though. The Gawler show, I think it is, I've been to a lot of Gawler shows, and I think it was one of the best, the way it was set up, the displays, the MC was unreal, you know, I mean, the whole thing was just great. It's a real credit to Gawler. I think somebody mentioned on the radio today about what a great event it is. And certainly it was mentioned before about, I think Pastor Adrian mentioned it about the people from Hewitt and Barossa. My phone's been going ballistic. People ringing up and saying, what's going on? And the Hewitt thing was a real mess, but I certainly didn't hang around too long in case I got shot. But basically, it just wasn't organised. It surprised me that the Light Council didn't have someone, but then it just surprised me that because when they keep Hewitt and Gawler built, it'll be all right. But a special thanks to Angus. Certainly, Bryce really taught him well. He's not here to hear that, but Angus did a fantastic job. I mean, when staff do a great job, we really do have to applaud them. And because I'm a life member of the Show Society and a patron, my job is to walk around, talk to the people and things like that. And I just didn't have anybody, I think Ethan said it, I didn't have anybody that said there was anything wrong. No. And the weather was good, the fireworks were fantastic. Oh, somebody complained because there was no music in the fireworks. Well, yeah, like, come on, you know. It was really a great time. Sadly, LRNM had their total, I think we all know John Chamberlain, Yvonne Chamberlain and Robbie. It's the end of an era for LRNM, and the Buttrose people have certainly gone from strength to strength, and I caught up with all of them the other... Sorry?
Sorry? No.
Oh, sorry. Next question. Yeah, and anyway... that was really great, and I had a good chat to the men's shed. We can be very proud in Gawler of the way that men's shed operates and the stall that they operate, and they make things up for people and all that sort of thing. So all in all, it's just been a great month and a lot happening, and the new CEO was there. The Mayor's speech was fantastic, and I also thought that the President's speech was really great as well. No, great week. A month, right, yeah.
Any other deputy mayor? There we go. No.
Yep.
Oh.
There you go.
Well, firstly, on the topic of congratulating our staff, congratulations to Stanley and the parking inspectors on the most wild parking days of the year, just desperately trying to stop people from parking across people's driveways and all these things. I think that situation does get better every year, not just the show, but the situation in the streets around the show. There were a couple of different volunteer groups who, one of them managed to get me to help out with their parking. I was there in a high vis directing people to park and all this sort of thing. I could hear Councillor White's booming voice even from the St George's Anglican Church. I also went to the Tennis Open Day, and they're doing a great job. Our tennis association had a fantastic open day with. They were using up, I think, all of the tennis courts. Lots of people giving it a go and getting involved.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to just let everyone know that Millie and I saw you guys in the teacups as well, and we were trying to figure out why you guys were so scared. No, but I just wanted to bring to the attention elected members, the Hope Cup that comes up, there's a canapé night coming up on Friday. Mayor Redman will be one of the presenters there, along with Tony Piccolo and Matt Burnell. This is one of the first times we actually have all levels of government as a charity event. I think we've got MC Ethan White there, the resident town MC. So yeah, it's a good opportunity, good charity event to come along, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to that one. So I just wanted to bring that and put that on elected members' radar.
It's going to be a very good event. Okay, so we now move to confidential reports, and we have an officer's recommendation on page 3 of our pink packets. Who would like to move and explain? Councillor Hennessy.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. We need to move into confidence, make the motion to move into confidence, and we need to do this because we are going to be discussing information, the disclosure of which will involve the unreasonable disclosure of information concerning the personal affairs of any person living and or dead. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Koch. I'll just get the Councillor Hennessy, Councillor Koch. Beautiful. Thank you, Nikita. Okay, so I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously.